Chapter 26-34. It was no wonder that they misunderstood CE. They were both wearing hospital uniforms and were about to go out to get some sun. CE was emitting a strong aura of violence from head to toe. He looked as if he was really going to commit domestic violence on the streets. Moreover, the two elders had lived almost their entire lives. They had seen a lot more things than ordinary people. They had seen many cases of husband and wife fighting after marriage and the husband abusing his wife. The two elders were also good people. The moment they saw CE grab Yunjian's wrist and walk away, they thought that CE was going to commit domestic violence on Yunjian. The grandfather of the two elders thought that CE was going to hit Yunjian. He was originally supporting the old lady, but after receiving the old lady's signal, he staggered over and tried to pull CE away. Young man, a man must learn to be tolerant. Look at how beautiful your wife is. Can you bear to hit her? Listen to me. Live happily with your wife. If you're unhappy, talk to each other. You can't hit her. The grandfather's words not only made CE's eyes darken, but even Chen Xini, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Ling Yichen couldn't help but laugh. Of course I can. CE raised his eyebrows and suddenly smiled wickedly. However, when the grandfather saw his expression, he thought that CE was really going to commit domestic violence on Yunjian. You can't. You can't, young man, you can't. The grandfather was afraid that CE would really hit Yunjian, so he quickly reached out his dry and old hand to pull CE back. Before the old man could extend his hand, however, CE had extended his long bony hand that was exquisite and beautiful enough to make a handcon scream and swung it at Yunjian's cheek. The moment his hand was about to touch Yunjian's cheek, CE's hand suddenly circled around Yunjian's head and pressed against the back of Yunjian's head. Then, in front of everyone, he bent down slightly and placed his head in front of Yunjian's face. Without saying anything, he kissed Yunjian's little mouth heavily. He even made a smacking sound. This sound scared the old man so much that he took 2 steps back. The old lady's heart skipped a beat. He only kissed Yunjian's little mouth for 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, CE grabbed Yunjian's wrist again in a position that was mistaken for domestic violence. He said something that sounded angry but also seemed to have a deeper meaning. If she doesn't take good care of herself, I can do it myself. I'll teach her a lesson. Who in their right mind would talk about this kind of small train and use it as an excuse to show off? CE's words scared the old couple so much that they almost had a heart attack. Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xini froze on the spot. By the time everyone reacted, CE had already walked away with Yunjian. For the next 2 days, CE kept watch over Yunjian, making her chew and swallow her food slowly. If she didn't comply, in the bedroom on the 2nd floor, the little girl and the little girl were taken away by Qin Yiru. Yunjian was sitting on CE's lap and being fed by CE mouthful by mouthful. Chew more. If I find out that something's wrong with your body again. As CE spoke, he thrust his body forward. Yunjian couldn't hold it in and almost cried out. However, the curtains on the 2nd floor were tightly shut. In front of the desk, Yunjian was sitting on CE's lap. That wasn't the point. The point was that both of them were naked, and he actually used such a shameful method to make her eat slowly. I'm done eating. Let me down. But I'm not full yet. Chapter 26-35. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. Yunjian admitted that if anyone knew about this, she would probably die of embarrassment. He actually thought of such a way to make her chew her rice slowly. Yunjian couldn't even see through CE. Where was his usual aloofness? Where did he go? Why did he? Ma'am. The day was still long, but at this time and place, it was extremely beautiful. On the 3rd day, Yunjian and CE went to Qin Yiru's house first. They took a look at the little guy and the little girl, kissed their foreheads, and left quietly while the 2 little guys were still sleeping. Just as Yunjian and CE were about to get into CE's Lamborghini, a magnetic male voice sounded behind them. Is it convenient for you to join us? The 2 of them turned around and saw Yuan Xin, who was wearing a ghost mask, standing beside the Lamborghini. Yuan Xin lightly patted the Lamborghini and smiled at Yunjian and CE. Yunjian tilted her head and leaned towards the back seat of the Lamborghini, pursing her lips. Get in. The biggest difference between Yunjian's Ferrari and the Lamborghini was that the Ferrari didn't have a single back seat. Even though the Lamborghini didn't have a back seat door, the back seat was still a little narrow. For people like the little guy and the little girl, sitting in the back seat of the Lamborghini, other than having less space to move around compared to a normal car, there was no other difference. However, for someone like Yuan Xian, who was 1.8 meters tall, sitting in the back seat of the Lamborghini, Yuan Xian's body was curled up and he couldn't even straighten his back. He was like those acrobats who were put into a big box. Other than being able to move his hands and feet, his neck was crooked when he was put into the box. His neck was crooked and he couldn't move at all. Imagine a man who was 1.8 meters tall, wearing a ghost mask, squeezing into the back seat of an indescribably narrow sports car. What kind of scene would that be? Wait. Are you going to let me sit in this car for more than 20 hours? Yuan Xian saw that he was sitting in the back seat of the Lamborghini and couldn't stretch his arms. He was stunned for a moment. Then he seemed to resist. I'll get out of the car and find a car that can drive to follow you. Yuan Xian rolled his eyes. Even though the Lamborghini had a back seat, because the structure of the Lamborghini translation, the back seat wasn't suitable because of the design of the car. The translation. If Yuan Xian wanted to get out, he would step on the driver's seat and the passenger's seat. Once you're in the car, you're not allowed to get out. Yun Jian, who was sitting in the passenger's seat, smiled evilly. As if responding to Yun Jian's words, Ce locked the door, and the car sped to the road at the fastest speed. In the next second, he disappeared from where he stood. Only Yuan Xian was left to roar in exasperation. No wonder my father said that you two are simply demons. Demons. Ce drove for more than 20 hours, overtaking countless cars on the way, and finally arrived at the destination. Yuan Xian's back was hunched when he got out of the car. It's here. Yun Jian pointed to a forest on the side of the road and said. Since they had arrived at the destination, Yuan Xian's eyes began to darken. I don't know how to get there, but there must be someone strange nearby. As long as we find the person, we can find the way to the future. Yes, they were going to the future world. Because the mysterious man came here from the future world. Translator. Transin Editor. Transin. Chapter 2636. Originally, they were still dubious about the mysterious man's origin. However, after talking to Xing Feng, Yun Jian and Ce finally understood. They understood what even Yuan Jin did not know. This matter was very complicated. It was not a coincidence that Xing Feng and Yuan Jin could come here from the future world. After all, Yun Jian and Ce were so powerful, but they could not travel through time. Yuan Jin could open the space-time door because there was a strange power in the depths of this forest. As long as you had a little bit of spiritual power, you could open the space-time door. Only the powerful could control the space-time you wanted to go to. Xing Feng had strong spiritual energy, so he was able to control himself from losing control. However, Yun Jian and Ce could not find the mysterious man's hiding place because the mysterious man was not from this world. Like Xing Feng, he came from the future. However, before the mysterious man became a mysterious man, he was just a very ordinary person. In other words, in the future world, the mysterious man traveled to the era before the dominator of the deity continent was born. No matter how many years had passed, he could always return to the original time of the future world. If one wanted to say that Yun Jian and Ce could find the mysterious man in the present world and kill him before he became a mysterious man, it was indeed possible. If they could find him in the present world and kill him before he became a mysterious man, then everything about the mysterious man traveling through time and space to the deity continent and what happened later would not have happened. However, the mysterious man was very cunning. He seemed to have known that his identity would be exposed, so he always showed up in a black robe. No matter how powerful Yun Jian and Ce were, they could not find out what kind of existence the mysterious man was on Earth before he became a mysterious man. Therefore, in order to find the root of everything, they had to go to the future world. Only then could they solve all the mysteries. And kill the mysterious man completely. I'll go ask around and see if anyone who knows where to go in and out of this forest has noticed anything unusual. Yuan Lin reached out his hand and shook his head from left to right. The bones on his pillow made a cracking sound. Okay. Yun Jian nodded. Hearing this, Yuan Jin walked to the nearby village. This was a foreign country, a border area that did not belong to any country. The people who lived here lived in tribes, and they all lived in thatched huts. There was no other name for this forest. For the time being it was called the space-time forest. 15 minutes later, Yuan Jin came back with the residents of a nearby village. When the residents of this village arrived, the village chief said, "Something strange is indeed happening here. Oh, the forest near us. It's been very safe since ancient times. There are no wild beasts and everyone goes into the forest to chop firewood. But last week, Hui went into the forest and never came back. We felt that something was wrong, so we sent another 3 people to look for him, but there was no news. They all went missing. Everyone thought that this was a punishment bestowed upon our village by the forest god's wrath." When the village chief said this, his whole body was trembling violently. But as soon as he finished speaking, a villager suddenly ran out from the side and shouted loudly in a frightened voice, "What's wrong?" "Village, village, village chief. I found Hui and the others near the forest. They were all covered in blood and were left on the outskirts of the forest." Chapter 26:37. Originally, they were still dubious about the mysterious man's origin. However, after talking to Xing Feng, Yun Jian and Ce finally understood. They understood what even Yuan Jin did not know. This matter was very complicated. It was not a coincidence that Xing Feng and Yuan Jin could come here from the future world. After all, Yun Jian and Ce were so powerful, but they could not travel through time. Yuan Jin could open the space-time door because there was a strange power in the depths of this forest. As long as you had a little bit of spiritual power, you could open the space-time door. Only the powerful could control the space-time you wanted to go to. Xing Feng had strong spiritual energy, so he was able to control himself from losing control. However, Yun Jian and Ce could not find the mysterious man's hiding place because the mysterious man was not from this world. Like Xing Feng, he came from the future. However, before the mysterious man became a mysterious man, he was just a very ordinary person. In other words, in the future world, the mysterious man traveled to the era before the dominator of the deity continent was born. No matter how many years had passed, he could always return to the original time of the future world. If one wanted to say that Yun Jian and Ce could find the mysterious man in the present world and kill him before he became a mysterious man, it was indeed possible. If they could find him in the present world and kill him before he became a mysterious man, then everything about the mysterious man traveling through time and space to the deity continent and what happened later would not have happened. However, the mysterious man was very cunning. He seemed to have known that his identity would be exposed, so he always showed up in a black robe. No matter how powerful Yun Jian and Ce were, they could not find out what kind of existence the mysterious man was on Earth before he became a mysterious man. Therefore, in order to find the root of everything, they had to go to the future world. Only then could they solve all the mysteries and kill the mysterious man completely. I'll go ask around and see if anyone who knows where to go in and out of this forest has noticed anything unusual. Yuan Lin reached out his hand and shook his head from left to right. The bones on his pillow made a crisp cracking sound. "Okay." Yun Jian nodded. Hearing this, Yuan Jin walked to the nearby village. This was a foreign country, a border area that did not belong to any country. The people who lived here lived in tribes, and they all lived in thatched huts. There was no other name for this forest. For the time being it was called the space-time forest. 15 minutes later, Yuan Jin came back with the residents of a nearby village. When the residents of this village arrived, the village chief said, "Something strange is indeed happening here. Oh, the forest near us. It's been very safe since ancient times. There are no wild beasts and everyone goes into the forest to chop firewood. But last week, Hui went into the forest and never came back. We felt that something was wrong, so we sent another 3 people to look for him, but there was no news. They all went missing. Everyone thought that this was a punishment bestowed upon our village by the forest god's wrath." When the village chief said this, his whole body was trembling violently. But as soon as he finished speaking, a villager suddenly ran out from the side and shouted loudly in a frightened voice, "Brother Zhao, you've been killed." "Village, village, village chief. I found Hui and the others near the forest. They were covered in blood and left outside the forest." Wonderful Book House. Chapter 26:38. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. A group of fashionably dressed young boys and girls with hair dyed in various colors gathered together by the roadside, drinking milk tea, dating openly, going out to play and singing in the KTV. This group of fashionably dressed young boys and girls chatted with each other and came to a large KTV. They asked for a large private room and sang happily for 5 hours. Until 6 o'clock in the evening. Today was New Year's Eve. Most people would stay at home to enjoy the warmth of family. Or like this group of young boys and girls, they would go to the KTV with some good friends and play all night long before going home in the middle of the night. Some girls even didn't go home and stayed at their boyfriends' houses for the night. Compared to 2004, the boys and girls of this era were many times happier. Most of their families were not poor, so students who went to college were especially fun. At a certain university, a girl who was dressed like someone from the 2000s and had a black mask on her face walked out of the university. Apart from her perfect figure, she looked very ordinary. At the entrance of the university, a man who was 185 meters tall and wore matching outfits with a girl, but he wore a cap that covered his face. When he saw the girl walking out of the university, he came over to hold her hand and left the university in a low-key manner. Yes, the girl was Yunjian. The man was CE. They found the space-time tunnel to the future in the space-time forest and opened the space-time door to the present 15 years later. That was 2019. I didn't find any unusual students in the school these 2 days, Yunjian said. She meant that she didn't find the mysterious man in the school. Now Yunjian and CE were facing a very serious problem. In this world, they had no money or power. In other words, they didn't have the money or the power to investigate the hiding place of the mysterious man. They learned from Yuan Lin that in the future world, Yunjian and CE were dead. He died 3 years ago, in the battle with the mysterious man in 2016. After Yunjian and CE died together with the mysterious man in the future world, all the forces fell apart in an instant. Without their masters, all the forces began to fall. Kosha mercenaries, and Hun group, and those forces led by Yunjian and CE were all divided by the international tycoons. That was the situation in the future. But Yunjian and CE came back. Since they came to the future world, they must change the situation and kill the mysterious man with their own hands. In this world, Xingfeng gave up his life and came back to the past, to change the fate of Yunjian and CE, who died with the mysterious man in the future. He wanted to change Yunjian and CE. Yun would not let her son, CE, see Xingfeng. She would send the mysterious man to hell in person. CE covered his face with his cap and held Yunjian's hand. When they came to a fork in the road, they were blocked by a group of people with arms akimbo, as if they were going to fight. CE didn't want to cause trouble, so he took Yunjian to a detour. Who would have thought that the group would block Yunjian and CE again? The leader of the group looked at Yunjian from head to toe and spoke like a ruffian. You're right. Girl, I heard that you dress very shabbily at school. You've become famous in just 2 days. People in the school are talking about you like crazy. Hurry up, take off your mask and let me see what you look like. Translator. Henyi Translations Editor. Chapter 2639. Part 1. Page 1/1. The leader of the group shook his legs. It was obvious that he wasn't a student of this university. He was most likely a hooligan. He didn't belong to any gangs. Therefore, this ruffian boy would at most drag his buddies along with him. Usually, when he was unhappy with someone, he would get into a group fight with them to show off his power. Above the black mask, Yunjian's sharp eyes flashed slightly. Seeing that Yunjian and CE didn't say anything, the leader of the group laughed cruelly and walked over to forcefully pull off Yunjian's mask. But just as he reached out his hand, halfway through, a slender palm blocked his path. Immediately after, 2 gotcha sounds of the bones in his palms breaking could be clearly heard. Ow! The ruffian boy screamed in pain. F***CK. Are you all just going to watch me get bullied? Go. F***CK. The hooligan's wrist was grabbed by CE, and the bones in his hand were broken. As he howled like a pig, he called for his buddies to come over and help. As soon as the boy shouted, more than 10 boys around him were enraged. They all rushed towards Yunjian and CE to surround them. 1 minute later, more than 10 boys were thrown to the ground by Yunjian and CE. More than 10 boys howled like pigs. In 2019, law and order were very good. When the boys led a group of people to surround Yunjian and CE, someone had already called the police. 10 minutes later, everyone was sitting in a nearby police station. Name. A female police officer held a registration book and asked the leader of the group that surrounded Yun Jian and Ce. Zhang Xiaosan. The boy touched his hand that had been broken by Ce and replied dejectedly. "Pft, ha 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 ha." The boy, who was one of Zhang Xiaosan's close friends, couldn't help but laugh out loud the moment he heard his name. F***ck. What are you laughing at? Zhang Xiaosan glared at his brother with a dispirited look. 20 minutes later, the group left the police station. Before they left, Zhang Xiaosan and his gang were severely criticized by the police. Yun Jian and Ce left the police station without saying a word. At this moment, Zhang Xiaosan touched his hand and brought his men to surround them. "I've never been beaten up like this in my entire life." Zhang Xiaosan brought his men and surrounded him again. This was the first thing he said. More than 10 of Zhang Xiaosan's buddies, including Zhang Xiaosan, were beaten black and blue by Yun Jian and Ce. "Brother, sister, I, Xiaosan, have decided that you are my brothers." Zhang Xiaosan patted his chest with the hand that hadn't been broken by Ce and said loudly to Yun Jian and Ce. Yun Jian glanced at Zhang Xiaosan with her sharp eyes and didn't say anything. She didn't intend to pay attention to him. But Zhang Xiaosan's next words attracted Yun Jian's attention. "Brother, sister. From now on, you two are my ancestors." Needless to say, I, Zhang Xiaosan, have the best power in this area. If you need any help, just let me know. After he finished speaking, Yun Jian and Ce looked at each other and nodded at Zhang Xiaosan. In this era, Yun Jian and Ce had no power. Everything had to start from scratch. But, as the former king, even if they started from scratch, they would still be invincible. At Yun Jian's request, Zhang Xiaosan quickly helped to search for information about the mysterious man. Book Guest House Reading Website. Chapter 2640. Speaking of which, Zhang Xiaosan's influence was not small. He contacted a group of his friends from various places and actually searched the entire Zhe province. "Hey, I heard a piece of news. I heard that there was an abandoned teaching building near our university. There was a man in a black robe, with only a pair of dark eyes exposed. I don't know if he's the one you're looking for. Brother, sister. If you want to go, I'll lead the way for you." Zhang Xiaosan patted his shoulder and said, "Let's go." Yun Jian nodded simply. Zhang Xiaosan rushed out of the door as if he was dealing with his own business. "Thank you, Xiaosan." Just as Zhang Xiaosan was about to step out of the door, Yun Jian's intimate address scared Zhang Xiaosan so much that he slipped and fell to the ground. "Sister, you can call me Sansan or Zhang in the future. Can you drop the word Xiaosan? I beg you, sister," Zhang Xiaosan said with a bitter face. Yun Jian just nodded slightly and said nothing. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Yun Jian met up with Zhang Xiaosan and the others alone. Yuan Jin had some influence in this world. Ce planned to use Yuan Jin's influence to take back the forces that had been scattered by the death of Yun Jian and Ce in the future world. Needless to say, Ce really had the ability to do so, using a small force to swallow a big force. Starting from scratch, Ce would still be the king, the ruler of the divine continent, the divine emperor. Because the search for the mysterious man could not be limited to Zhe province or country Z. It required connections, financial resources, and power. Coming here, Yun Jian and Ce did not plan to get rich in one go and find the mysterious person at once. Since they were sure that the mysterious man was here, it was only a matter of time before they found him. Yun Jian met up with Zhang Xiaosan and the others alone. "Sis, you're here?" Zhang Xiaosan chuckled at Yun Jian. Yun Jian nodded and led the way to the abandoned school building. "Why are you here?" Just as Yun Jian was walking towards the abandoned school building, she heard Zhang Xiaosan shouting behind her. "Since you're here, why can't I be here?" The voice of a female university student came from behind. Yun Jian just turned sideways and gave him a sidelong glance. The person who came was actually one of the girls who had commented in front of the coffee shop not long ago that their university had produced a rustic girl who dressed like she was from the year 2000. This girl's name was Fong Lingli, and she was a very clever girl. Behind Fong Lingli was a group of girls. It seemed like they were here to join in the fun. Coincidentally, Fong Lingli was Zhang Xiaosan's girlfriend. At this moment, when Fong Lingli saw Yun Jian, she couldn't help but narrow her eyes. She took the lead and pointed at Yun Jian. Zhang Shaosan pointed at Zhang Shaosan and said to Zhang Shaosan, "Why did you call her here? Don't you know that she's the weirdo in our university?" As Fang Lingli spoke, she grabbed Zhang Shaosan's shirt and took 2 big steps back. However, just as Fang Lingli and the others were done talking, Yun Jian suddenly saw a figure coming from behind them. The owner of that silhouette, she was. Seeing this, Yun Jian's eyes flickered. Without saying a word, she suddenly removed her black mask in front of everyone. 3 years ago, when news of the death of the top international secret agent, Slaying God, spread, everyone in the world knew about it. It had been 3 years since Slaying God's death, but her reputation had never faded. It was said that the existence of assassins and secret agents was like fireworks after her death. After being dazzling, it would fade away. However, Slaying God's death was like a reminder to people. No matter how many years had passed, her existence was enough to make people tremble in fear. She had become an eternal legend in the world of assassins and secret agents. Moreover, when Slaying God died, all the major international newspapers were filled with her looks for an entire year. When Yun Jian removed her black mask, everyone saw Yun Jian's face. With Zhang Shaosan and Fang Lingli in the lead, everyone stared at Yun Jian. Suddenly, their pupils dilated and they exclaimed, Why you? Aren't you the top international secret agent, Slaying God who died 3 years ago?" Chapter 2641. Slaying God, who had died in 2016 and was ranked number 1 on the International Secret Agent Assassin ranking. Although Fang Lingli and the rest were from the same school as Yun Jian, they had been discussing Yun Jian's looks in front of the cafe not too long ago. However, no one had actually seen Yun Jian's face before. This was because Yun Jian had been wearing a black mask ever since she transferred to university. However, they could vaguely tell from her facial features that Yun Jian was not ugly. That was why people said that she must be a plastic surgery freak. However, when the black mask on Yun Jian's face was removed, everyone was stunned. However, Yun Jian ignored their shock. She hung the black mask by her ear and took 2 steps forward with her long legs. She saw a woman standing behind Zhang Shaosan, Fang Lingli, and the rest. The woman was dressed in a flamboyant outfit and looked sexy and seductive. The woman was tall and slender. In 2019, she was already in her 30s. She and Yun Jian, who was not even in her 20s, looked at each other in front of Zhang Shaosan, Fang Lingli, and the rest. Fang Lingli, Zhang Shaosan, and the rest who had recovered from the shock were secretly comforting themselves. It was probably just a coincidence that Yun Jian looked similar to a dead person. When Yun Jian and the woman in her 30s looked at each other, Zhang Shaosan, Fang Lingli, and the rest were shocked again. Why did Yun Jian and the woman look at each other and feel like they had crossed time and space? Who's this woman? Fang Lingli glanced at the woman in her 30s and used her manicured hand to tuck her hair gently. She should be my sister's friend. Just watch quietly and don't talk nonsense. Zhang Shaosan grabbed Fang Lingli and addressed Yun Jian as his sister. Perhaps due to Yun Jian's terrifying face, Fang Lingli and the group of female university students who were with Fang Lingli kept their mouths shut. At that moment, Zhang Shaosan and the rest of the delinquents, Fang Lingli, and the group of female university students saw Yun Jian stop when she was about 3 meters away from the woman in her 30s. They thought that the two of them were old friends who had not seen each other for a long time and that they would extend their arms and hug each other tightly like normal teenage girls. This was something that only normal people would do. Who knew that when Yun Jian was 3 meters away from the woman, she would suddenly stop. She suddenly pulled out a fruit knife from her waist, replacing the butterfly knife that she was good at, and dashed toward the woman. Zhang Shaosan, Fang Lingli, and the rest were shocked when they saw that. Oh my God! Sister! Elder, please be careful, the blade does not have eyes, it can kill. Zhang Shaosan was so scared that he kept shouting. How was this meeting an old friend? This was clearly a meeting between 2 enemies, and their eyes blazed with hatred. Fang Lingli and the others were all students. In the peaceful era of 2019, who would still use knives and guns? Zhang Ziziz's. Yun Jian was playing with her life. However, just as Yun Jian's knife was about to pierce the woman's heart, the knife flashed and a long knife was pushed out from the woman's wrist. The long knife blocked Yun Jian's knife. When the two collided, there was a series of sparks. Yun Jian's lips curled up at that moment. She said, "You're still alive. The woman on the other side also smiled and replied with a reply that shocked everyone present. You too. This woman in her 30s was none other than Ji Yi. She was Xueqi, who had died in 2004. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2642. As for why Xueqi was still alive in 2019. Have you ever heard of a time machine? Some people could open the door of time and space, travel to many years ago, and change history. Xueqi was still alive in 2019, but Xueqi was already dead in the year Yunjian was born in 2004. Did this mean that Xueqi could be resurrected after his death in 2004? Of course, all of this was still unknown. Yunjian came to country Z in 2019 from 2004 to change the future. The future could be changed. After all, the beginning of everything was the mysterious man's return to the starting point of Lord God, which changed everything. If the mysterious man had not accidentally gone to the divine continent in 2019, Yunjian, as the witch goddess, would not have been attacked, and Ce, as the immortal, would not have sacrificed his life to save her. The two of them would not have fallen to the earth. In general, this was the only point. It was the mysterious man who accidentally went to the divine continent and attacked Yunjian, and Ce and Yunjian both fell to the earth. What happened later was not much different from what Yunjian had experienced, except for the absence of the sandalwood box, wooden fan, and wooden hairpin. The only difference was that Yunjian and Ce gave birth to Si Luo. After Si Luo grew up, Yunjian and Ce died together with the mysterious man, and only Si Luo and Yuanjin survived. By chance, Si Luo found out that the mysterious man was reborn in the era he lived in and went to the divine continent. When the mysterious man was at large in Yunjian's era, Si Luo, who had not yet become a mysterious man, also existed in the world. However, the mysterious man only showed a pair of dark eyes, and his whole body was covered in a black robe, so Si Luo could not kill him as early as 2004, before the mysterious man found a way to go to the divine continent. Si Luo went to the divine continent with the mysterious man in the future when the mysterious man had just become a mysterious man and found the passage to the divine continent. In general, Yunjian had experienced 2 repetitive lives. She had no impression of the first repetitive life. Everything is complicated to say, but you just need to remember one thing. From 2004, Yunjian and Ce traveled through time and space to 2019, just to find the mysterious man and kill him, so as to change the future of herself, Ce, and everyone else who perished together with the mysterious man. Even if her and Ce's deaths were already a foregone conclusion. However, the future could be changed. My life is in my hands and not in the hands of the heavens. She, Yunjian, was going to defy the heavens and take control of her own luck. Inside the cafe, Yunjian put on the black mask again. Xueqi also wore a hat. Zhang Shaosan, Fang Lingli, and the others stood like bodyguards beside the table where Yunjian and Xueqi were staring at each other, about 10 meters away. Xueqi didn't seem to know about this. She raised her eyebrows and asked Yunjian, "So you're saying that I died in 2004? Yunjian responded softly. Xueqi raised her eyebrows and looked at Yunjian. She said half-jokingly, "In my current world, you 006, are also a dead person. Do you know how shocked I was when I heard that you were dead? I can't believe you, 006, will die one day." Haha. Xueqi's words were a little harsh, but Yunjian knew she was joking. Yunjian pressed her lips together and asked in return, "Then it's your turn to explain why you were with the mysterious man's underling in 2004. Xueqi nodded and smiled. She told Yunjian honestly, "Because I owed him a favor. But I want to know my character. I wouldn't have hurt you in the past, would I?" Chapter 2643. You didn't harm me. You even saved my life. Yunjian stood up and crossed her arms in front of her chest with a smile on her face. After a while she continued to ask, "Which means you know the identity of the mysterious man? Who is he?" The corners of Xueqi's lips twitched at the mention of this. That guy is very cunning. He knows that he was just an ordinary earthling before he took on his current identity. He's afraid that he'll be killed in another time and space. He didn't send anyone to protect himself as an ordinary person in another time and space. That's why he didn't expose himself at all. When Xueqi said this, the twitch of his lips was tinged with anger. Yunjian's eyes dimmed at his words. However, What Shenji said next caught Yunjian's attention. But I know that the guy has a weakness that outsiders don't know about. Shenji's words made Yunjian's eyes narrow. After leaving the cafe, Zhang Shaosan, Fong Lingli, and the others kept their mouths shut. It was as if they had found out something that should not be leaked to the outside world, as they did not publicize anything about Yunjian. After the future Yunjian died, all the forces under her were taken over by Shenji alone. They did not fall into the hands of outsiders. Shenji had even asked Yunjian if she wanted to return her forces to her, but Yunjian had declined decisively. She only asked Shenji to help find the mysterious man's whereabouts. Her purpose in coming to the future was to kill the mysterious man and nothing else. During the weekend, Yunjian took the high-speed rail back to Longmen City from a university. There was no high-speed rail in 2004, but with Yunjian's understanding, she quickly learned how to buy tickets with her smartphone. The Longmen City of 2004 and 2019 had undergone drastic changes. Whether it was the streets, the alleys, the city's scale, or the people's living conditions, everything had changed drastically. Based on Longmen City's economic situation in 2019, every household could afford a car now. Yunjian tightened her black mask and arrived at a familiar yet strange home, Qin Yiru's home. Yunjian and Ce had died in the battle, but Qin Yiru, Gujunjian, and the others were still alive. When he arrived at the door, he saw Qin Yiru, who was already in her 50s or 60s, bending over to sweep the fallen leaves on the ground. Because of her old age, Qin Yiru had to use her other hand to support her waist when she bent down. His back looked lonely and desolate. Yunjian clenched her fists. She had no intention of going forward to acknowledge him. At this moment, a passerby suddenly threw a bunch of bananas into Qin Yiru's house. The bunch of bananas hit Qin Yiru hard. Bah! The murderer's mother. A man who passed by suddenly spat at Qin Yiru in the yard. The woman beside the man tugged at the passerby and said fearfully, "That's slaying God's mother after all. What if? Slaying God is already dead? Ha! How dare a woman flaunt her power to this extent? There's nothing left if she's dead. It's good enough that I didn't King rush in and beat slaying God's mother up. Look at slaying God's mother. Her leg isn't working. Wasn't it crippled by someone earlier? Without slaying God's support, she's nothing." The man spat and pulled the woman beside him, who was his girlfriend, away. They had just turned into an empty alley. The man was holding the woman's hand as they walked forward happily. Suddenly, a slender girl wearing a black mask appeared in front of them. F***CK. Who are you? What the hell are you doing? The man was startled and cursed. After that, the man pulled the woman, wanting to go around the girl in front of them and leave. However, just as the man was about to go around the girl suddenly took off her black mask, revealing her true face. Just as the man and woman were so frightened that their faces turned pale, they saw the young girl turn her head to look at them. But out of nowhere, she uttered the last sentence the man and woman heard in their lives. "Weren't you talking about me so enthusiastically just now? Why? Can't you guess who I am after seeing my face?" Chapter 2644. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Part 1, Part 2, page 1/1. Slaying God. The man did not even have time to recover from his shock. He gasped for air as he exclaimed. His rosy cheeks were now replaced by paleness and horror. Isn't slaying God dead? Didn't the media release slaying God's face after her death? The woman was pale with fright as well. She gripped the man's hand so hard that she could break his skin. However, when she recalled what they had done earlier, tap, tap, it was a quiet and deserted alley surrounded by residences. Since it was 1 or 2 in the afternoon, the residents had either gone out to have fun or were taking a nap at home. At this time, the originally quiet alley was the most deserted. Yunjian's long white shoes stepped lightly on the ground. She looked like a grim reaper who had just opened the gates of hell and stepped over thousands of corpses. Her sharp eyes glanced sideways at the man and woman. You. I'm telling you. This is a lawful society. If you dare do anything to me. Me. If you dare kill me. There will be evidence left at the crime scene. This is a high-tech society. If you kill me, they'll definitely find out that you're the murderer. If you're caught, you'll be sent to jail. Lay down your knife and become a Buddha. I advise you to be kind. The man's voice was trembling as he spoke. His grip on his girlfriend's hand loosened unknowingly. Just as Yun Jian was about to reach him, the man grabbed his girlfriend and hugged her tightly, trying to pull her to him. However, Yun Jian handed him a piece of white paper and a black pen. Write down all the people and addresses you know who bullied Qin Yiru's family, and I'll let you go. Yun Jian's words made the man heave a huge sigh of relief. He quickly grabbed the black pen from Yun Jian's hand and wrote down all the names and addresses he knew on the white paper. Everything I know is up there. Let's go. The man shoved the black pen and white paper back into Yun Jian's hands. He pushed his girlfriend and staggered 2 steps forward. He almost lost his balance and stumbled. Hold on. Yun Jian said slowly and gloomily. From the sound of her voice, one could tell that there was not a single trace of expression on her face. The man and his girlfriend's hearts trembled slightly. Just as the man turned around and was about to ask if Yun Jian was going to go back on her word, he suddenly heard a cold and indifferent voice behind him. He had heard the last words in this world. You two know that I'm still alive in this world. Do you really think you can leave safely? And province. Huzhou City. In a certain dance studio. A group of young girls dressed in bright and beautiful clothes were following their instructor in front of a large mirror, swaying their bodies to the music and dancing seductively. Unlike these young girls who were dressed in bright and beautiful clothes, there were 2 or 3 hourly workers who were wearing overalls and yellowish-white shoes. They were bent over the large floor of the dance studio, cleaning and mopping the floor. They were immersed in their work. These 2 or 3 hourly workers were hired by the boss to clean the dance studio every day. Among them, a girl with a slender figure and a perfect body, but her appearance was slightly ordinary. Her eyes flashed sharply. This ordinary-looking girl was none other than Yun Jian, who was in disguise. At this time, Yun Jian raised her eyes and looked at the girl who was about 15 or 16 years old, who was also beautiful but doing the work of the lowest class. Looking closely, the girl Yun Jian was looking at was 80% similar to Yun Jian's appearance. This young girl was none other than her own daughter, Si Yuan, who had grown up. Yun Jian's eyes darkened slightly. Suddenly, she heard the latest news broadcast from a color TV in front of the dance studio. It's reported that there have been more than a dozen headless murders in Zhe Province's Longmen City. However, the murderer knows how to erase the evidence at the scene, so the police can't start the investigation. The police are still investigating. Please follow us. We'll update you as soon as there's more news. Bookhouse Reading Website. Chapter 2645. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, Part 1. Part 2. Page 1/1. After the news report came out, the other girl who was working part-time in the dance studio with Yun Jian and Si Yuan wiped the sweat on her forehead and could not help grumbling to Si Yuan, who was not far away. Headless murder case. Si Yuan, I heard that your hometown is in Zhe Province's Longmen City, right? Hearing this, Si Yuan's hand paused. A trace of imperceptible desolation appeared on her young but beautiful face. Si Yuan nodded gently at the part-time worker who was with her and continued to do her work without saying anything. This was the fate of Si Yuan and Si Wan after they grew up after Yun Jian and Si Yi's death. Yun Jian tightened her grip on the mop, but she did not say anything. Yun Jian did not go forward to acknowledge Si Yuan as her daughter, as if something was squeezing her heart. Even if she was penniless when she first came to the future world, it was easy for Yun Jian to get rich in an instant with her ability. She also had the ability to let Si Yuan live a life of luxury immediately, but she did not plan to do so. She only planned to stay by Si Yuan's side and protect her silently before she found the mysterious man. Si Yuan was captured by the mysterious man. Yun Jian and Si Yi in the future world were gone. In addition, Yun Jian and Si Yi were not the only ones who perished together with the mysterious man back then. To Si Yuan, Si Wan was her only living relative other than Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian. Now, as Si Yuan's biological brother and her pillar of support, Si Wan had left for a place where everything had yet to begin in order to change his fate. He had not returned since he left. To Si Yuan, she did not have a trustworthy friend by her side now. She had to work outside the province to make a living, which resulted in her reticent personality. There was a moment of silence after that. Sigh, I'm so tired. My mom cooked supper for me. I can go home for supper tonight. Not long after, the group of beautifully dressed young girls who were practicing in front of the mirror in the dance studio walked out. One of them stretched lazily and spoke with a relaxed expression. The girls who were dressed up were a stark contrast to Yun Jian, Si Yuan, and another worker who were sweeping the floor. The girls who were having lessons left the dance studio one after another. This meant that Yun Jian and the rest had to mop the floor of the dance studio again. Si Yuan, let's go together. At this time, a well-dressed girl came out of the dance studio and walked in front of Si Yuan. She tilted her head at Si Yuan. The girl's name was Yuan Tianqi. She came from a rich family. Yuan Tianqi was Si Yuan's friend. She and her long legs. She was wearing a short leather shorts that just short of her butt. Si Yuan's looks. Was, the girl was is she? I haven't finished mopping the floor here. You can go first. Si Yuan looked like she wanted to go with Yuan Tianqi, but she paused and held the mop in her hand, refusing. I'll help you clean here. Go. Yun Jian took the mop from Si Yuan's hand and said, How can I? It's tiring for you to help me mop. Si Yuan was stunned and quickly said, Go play. Remember to go home early. Yun Jian did not say anything else. She just reminded her. The words go home early suddenly made Si Yuan want to cry. She wiped away her tears. What's wrong? Yun Jian saw Si Yuan wiping her tears and frowned slightly. Si Yuan saw this and quickly waved her hand at Yun Jian. Nothing. Nothing. I just feel that you look like someone I know. Very similar. She really looks like my dear mother. The mother I want to see again. Book Guest House Reading Website. Chapter 2646. 2. Page 1/1. Aya, if she's willing to do it, just let her do it for you. Aside from Yun Jian and Si Yuan, the other hourly worker saw this scene. She walked over and stuffed the mop in Si Yuan's hand into Yun Jian's hand. As the girl who worked part-time in the dance studio like Yun Jian and Si Yuan spoke, she shoved the mop she was holding into Yun Jian's hand as well. Hey, since you're helping Si Yuan, then help me too. Help me mop the floor. Don't worry, I'll take good care of Si Yuan. The girl who worked part-time in the dance studio was smart. She knew that Yun Jian was concerned about Si Yuan, so she used the latter as an excuse. Yun Jian would definitely agree to it. Yun Jian blinked. Sure enough, when she heard this hourly worker say that she would help take care of Si Yuan, she tacitly agreed. No, I can't let her do the work of 3 people by herself. You guys go play. I'll stay and mop the floor. For some reason, Si Yuan didn't want to leave. She snatched the mop back from Yun Jian's hand and insisted on going with Yun Jian. Okay, I really don't have a choice. Tianqi, let's go together? The other hourly worker said and put on a helpless expression. Then, she climbed onto Yuan Tianqi's arm. Yuan Tianqi froze, but he still nodded. Okay. This hourly worker girl didn't come from a good family. Her family didn't have money to support her, so she came out to work when she was 15 or 16 years old. The hourly worker girl's name was Gan Suya. Yuan Tianqi and Gan Suya left. Yun Jian's hand holding the mop slightly paused. She smiled from the bottom of her heart and looked at Si Yuan. Why didn't you leave? Because I can't let you be alone, Si Yuan said and took the mop from Yun Jian's hand and started mopping the floor again. After saying that, she seemed to be more cheerful in front of Yun Jian. Suddenly, she grinned at Yun Jian. Her smile was so beautiful that it was amazing. Also, I think you look like someone. That person is my mother. As she spoke, her voice became softer and softer. In the evening, Yun Jian personally sent Si Yuan to her residence and was about to leave. There was no trace of the mysterious person near the university. Yun Jian had left the university and was now temporarily living in Hezhou City of An Province. Just as Yun Jian was about to leave, Si Yuan suddenly asked her to stay. The girl who lives with me just moved out today. Do you want to move in with me? We can play games together, sleep, and count the stars. Before Si Yuan could finish, Yun Jian agreed. Okay. In the blink of an eye, it was the end. At the end of the month, after settling her salary, Si Yuan planned to give herself a day off. Coincidentally, Yuan Tianqi and Gan Suya had asked her out to play together. Si Yuan was looking forward to it very much. Si Yuan also invited Yun Jian to go with her, but Yun Jian refused. You must be home before 7 o'clock in the evening, Yun Jian said. In the future, Si Yuan did not learn martial arts from Yun Jian because she had been well protected by her family. Okay. I find that you really look like my mother. Si Yuan smiled excitedly at Yun Jian. Then she waved to Yun Jian and left the rented house to go out to play. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and smiled. Soon after Si Yuan went out, she left with her. In Huzhou City of An Province, in the home of the chairman of the most famous and powerful Tianma group in the city, the Pegasus Group had opened a Pegasus nightclub in private, and the nightclub did some unscrupulous business. At this moment, in the office of the Tianma Group, a 19-year-old girl was stepping on the shoulder of the chairman of the Tianma Group, Ma Jianhang. She forced the chairman of the Tianma Group, Ma Jianhang, to kneel down in front of her and listen to her trembling. And this girl was none other than Yun Jian. Book Guest House Reading Website. Chapter 2647. Upon closer inspection, the director of Tianma Group, Ma Jianhang, was shaking all over with sweat beading on his forehead as he knelt before Yun Jian with his head lowered. Yun Jian wore a black mask that covered her entire face. She stepped on the shoulder of Ma Jianhang, the richest and most powerful magnate in Huzhou City, like she was doing something that could not be more ordinary. Following the recent murders in Longmen City, a young girl with the code name Soul Slayer had appeared in the underworld. It was said that the girl looked to be in her teens and wore a black mask daily. Her identity was unknown and she was decisive in her killings, killing anyone she targeted. Ma Jianhang was unaware of Yun Jian's identity. He only knew that Yun Jian came to him because she was interested in his wealth. Whatever you've taken a fancy to from my company, please take it away. Please let me go. Please let me go. Ma Jianhang was pale with fright. He did not even know which corner Yun Jian had snuck into his office from. Once Yun Jian appeared, she threw him to the ground. There was a blade attached to the heel of her shoe that was stepping on his shoulder. The blade was pressed tightly against his neck. 50 million yuan. Not a cent less. Transfer it to this card. Yun Jian tossed a bank card in front of Ma Jianhang. Ma Jianhang obediently made a phone call and asked someone to transfer the money to the bank card number. Soon, Yun Jian received 50 million yuan in her account. Once the money was in her hands, Yun Jian stomped on the bank card on the ground. The card bounced up and landed in Yun Jian's palm. Holding the card, she ground the blade under her foot into the ground and kept it without a trace. At the same time, in Pegasus nightclub. See Yuan, it's true. You have to believe me. It's Tianqi who recommended it. Don't you believe me? I tried it 2 days ago. I can earn at least 200 to 300 yuan a night just by pouring drinks for people in the bar. It could even be up to 1,000 yuan. Why don't you come and work with me? This way, we won't have to work so hard to mop the floor. Gon Suya dragged Si Yuan to the Pegasus nightclub. Really? Si Yuan was indeed moved. She was just a little girl who had not experienced anything. She didn't even know what a place like a bar was. Really? Moreover, as long as you accompany them to drink, you'll get a tip. Why don't you try coming here to work for a day? I promise you won't go back to mop that dirty floor again. Gon Suya nodded her head like a rattledrum. She dragged Si Yuan into the bar. On the other side, after Yun Jian returned home, she did not see Si Yuan. It was already 7:30 in the evening. She told her to go home at 7, but she was still not back at this time. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. At this time, Si Yuan was dragged by Gon Suya to change into the professional attire of the bar. It was a mini skirt, similar to what the receptionist of a bar would wear. This skirt, isn't it too short? Si Yuan tugged at the hem of her short skirt, but it couldn't cover her beautiful white thighs. Wow! Si Yuan, your legs are too beautiful. The big bosses will definitely like your legs very much. At this time, Yuan Tianqi led a woman who was dressed very maturely into the changing room. When Yuan Tianqi saw Si Yuan, she exclaimed, her eyes shining. As he spoke, Yuan Tianqi even brought the maturely dressed woman behind him in front of Si Yuan, and then introduced her. All right, let me introduce you. This is the person in charge of the bar. Everyone calls her Sister Hong. Si Yuan, once you enter this industry, you'll really be drunk and won't want to be a floor sweeper for the rest of your life. Chapter 2648. As Yuan Tianqi spoke, he reached out and touched Si Yuan's thigh that was exposed outside the bar's business attire. He was joking with Si Yuan like they were best friends. Si Yuan only gave Yuan Tianqi a small symbolic smile, but her face was lifeless. Si Yuan had never come into contact with this before, but her innate perception gave her a bad premonition. Quick, greet Sister Hong. Yuan Tianqi said and nudged Si Yuan with his elbow, hinting at Si Yuan. Thinking that greetings should be basic etiquette, Si Yuan said to Sister Hong, "Hello, Sister Hong." Good. Good sister, you should only be 15 or 16 years old, right? You're so beautiful. Actually, Sister Hong is only a few years older than you. When I was your age, I also came out to make a living by myself. In the future, treat this place as your home. Sister Hong will protect you. Dressed in a red chong sam, Sister Hong walked towards Si Yuan leisurely. She was wearing a smoky makeup and high heels that were more than 10 centimeters tall. When she walked in front of Si Yuan, Sister Hong reached out and grabbed Si Yuan's arm, making Si Yuan's heart feel warm. However, Si Yuan still took 2 steps back without a trace. Whether it was Yuan Tianqi, Gon Suya, or Sister Hong, they all gave Si Yuan a very warm feeling. But why did she still feel that being with the people in front of her wasn't as comfortable as being with Yun Jian? Tick-tock, tick-tock. Si Yuan was silent for 2 minutes. Suddenly, she heard the crisp sound of the clock turning. She raised her head and looked at the clock hanging on the wall in front of the changing room. The time on the clock was a little past 7:30. It's already 7:30. I should go home. Si Yuan looked at the clock, turned around, and wanted to go into the changing room to take off her clothes and go home. Aya, what's the rush? Si Yuan, no one is waiting for you to go home anyway. It's only 7 o'clock. It's still early. Let's play for a while before going back. Let Sister Hong take you to get used to your new job. Yuan Tianqi saw this and reached out to grab Si Yuan. He even gave Gon Suya a sidelong glance. Seeing this, Gon Suya smiled and walked over to grab Si Yuan, urging her to stay. That's right. Play for a while before going back. We'll send you home later. Yuan Tianqi and Gon Suya tried their best to persuade her to stay. In addition, Sister Hong said that this was a good job. If Si Yuan didn't stay tonight to apply for the job, she wouldn't have another chance. There were many people lining up to get this easy and lucrative job, so Si Yuan agreed to stay. Can you lend me your phone? I want to make a call. And Chi is still waiting for me at home. She said that I have to be home by 7 o'clock. Si Yuan spoke again. And Chi was Yun Jian's fake name. Si Yuan, Yuan Tianqi, and Gon Suya all referred to Yun Jian as in Chi. And Chi isn't your parents. Do you think you'll go home when she tells you to? We don't have our phones with us. All right, let's go. I'll explain it to her when I go back tonight. Yuan Tianqi pushed Si Yuan and pulled her out of the changing room with a half-hearted refusal. Standing in the empty rented apartment, Yun Jian's face gradually darkened. 7:35. Si Yuan had always been an obedient child. It had been so long since the scheduled time and she still hadn't returned home. Yun Jian stood up from the sofa and walked to the door. She opened the door and left the rented apartment. The future world had undergone earth-shaking changes because of the death of the future Yun Jian and Ce. In 2004, Yun Jian only needed to make a phone call to investigate a person's whereabouts. But in 2019, without power, it wasn't so easy for her to investigate a person. Of course, everything that wasn't easy, even if she had to start from scratch and start all over again, in Yun Jian's hands, it would become a piece of cake. After being threatened by Yun Jian, the chairman of the Qianma Group, Ma Jianhang, couldn't recover from the shock for a long time. At this time, Ma Jianhang was hugging a naked woman with ample breasts and buttocks. Because they were tired after hard work, they both laid on the bed and prepared to go to sleep early. It was pitch black all around. Just as Ma Jianhang heaved a sigh of relief and was about to fall asleep, a ghost-like figure suddenly appeared on the balcony outside the curtains. Who's there? Ma Jianhang inadvertently caught a glimpse of this figure and was so scared that his lips and teeth turned white. Just as Ma Jianhang was so scared that all his muscles tensed up, a female voice that scared Ma Jianhang so much during the day that he almost peed his pants and would never forget until his death suddenly sounded from the balcony outside the curtains. Old thing, I'll give you 1 minute to get dressed and get out here. Chapter 2649. Ma Jianhang would remember this voice for the rest of his life. That woman lifted her foot, and a blade suddenly flew out of her heel. The scene of her holding it against his neck was like a decisive killer. Ma Jianhang was so scared that he jumped out of bed. He even forgot to pretend to be a gentleman in front of his mistress and quickly put on his clothes. As he ran, he crawled to open the curtains and the balcony door. Like a big wolf dog that had lost its arrogance, he bent down and looked at Yun Jian, obeying her orders. Pegasus Nightclub. At this moment, Si Yuan, who was wearing a bar attire, was pulled to the door of a large private room. Gon Suya had also changed into a bar attire at some point. Sister Hong and Yuan Tianqi stood next to Si Yuan and Gon Suya. Sister Hong was constantly reminding Si Yuan, "Good sister, you've just arrived. Learn more from Suya. Today, all the people in the room are big bosses. Their net worth is in the hundreds of millions. Don't make them unhappy." Yesterday, the new girl in our bar, Xiao Lan, received a tip of 3,000 yuan from the big bosses just by drinking with them. You too learn to be smarter. Sister Hong twisted her waist and warned them. As she spoke, Sister Hong glanced at Si Yuan and asked, "Good sister, have you been in love before?" As soon as she asked this, Sister Hong saw a trace of desolation flash through Si Yuan's eyes. N. After softly replying to Sister Hong, Si Yuan didn't say anything else. Si Yuan thought of Zhou Iran, who had protected her since she was young. But he had already protected her. Holding back the tears that were about to fall, Si Yuan clenched her fists and pretended to be calm. Okay, quickly go in." A different color flashed through Sister Hong's eyes. In the next second, she urged her. Si Yuan turned her head and secretly wiped her tears. She pushed the door open and entered the private room with a tray of wine. Sister Hong smiled as she watched Si Yuan and Gon Suya enter the private room. After the door closed, Sister Hong's smile instantly dimmed. This one already has a boyfriend. She's definitely not a virgin. Sister Hong said to Yuan Tianqi, who was standing on the side. Then if he doesn't comply later, we can directly inject him? Yuan Tianqi raised an eyebrow. Take care of this matter well. I'll give you a reward later. Hong Jie nodded towards Yuan Tianqi. She crossed her arms and looked through the door of the large private room to observe the situation inside. As soon as Si Yuan walked into the big box, her ears were ringing from the deafening noise in the box. She subconsciously took a big step back. Follow me later and don't run around. Obviously, it was not Gon Suya's first time here. She moved closer to Si Yuan and whispered to her. After that, Gon Suya smiled and walked towards the group of big bosses in front of her with a tray of wine. At first, Si Yuan and Gon Suya just stood aside and poured wine. Si Yuan also naively thought that this was just a job to pour wine. But as the atmosphere became more and more lively, the big bosses sat in the private room and held up their microphones to sing loudly at the screen. As they sang, one of the big bosses, who was big and burly, reached out his hand to touch Si Yuan's thigh. He was so big that he looked like he was 5 months pregnant. Perhaps she had inherited Yun Jian and Si Yi's excellent genes, but Si Yuan's innate reaction speed was extremely fast. She quickly dodged the second the big boss's hand was about to touch her thigh. This move instantly attracted the big boss's dissatisfaction. Hong! The big boss immediately shouted. He opened his mouth and wanted to call Hong Jie, who was outside the private room, to come in. Before the word Hong could be heard, Gon Suya took the opportunity to replace Si Yuan. She turned around, endured the disgust in her heart, and sat in the big boss's seat. Gon Suya took a sliced banana from the table in the private room and stuffed it into the big boss's mouth. Then she pulled her red lips. Bossly, she is a newcomer. You are a generous person, so don't lower yourself to her level. When Gon Suya was sweeping the floor in the dance studio, she was quite scheming. She knew how to take advantage of Yun Jian's kindness to Si Yuan to sweep the mop for Yun Jian. But at this moment, Gon Suya's action saved Si Yuan again. It should be known that if you angered this group of big bosses, it would not be over just by quitting this job. In the future, you would have to bear the consequences in Huzhou City. So you are a newcomer. I was wondering why you were so insensible. The bald man in his 40s or 50s, who was called Boss Li, grabbed Gon Suya's chest and stared straight at Si Yuan. White Horse Nightclub, in the name of a bar. Actually, the waitresses who entered here could be taken away as long as you could pay the price. They clearly marked the price for a night. Chapter 2650. Si Yuan was stunned by the scene in front of her. No matter how insensible she was, Si Yuan should know what was going on. I'm going to the toilet. Si Yuan immediately thought of a way to escape. She gave everyone a fake smile, but in her heart, she was already thinking of how to escape. Fortunately, no one stopped her from going to the toilet. After Si Yuan walked out of the private room, she ran to the toilet as fast as she could. At this time, Sister Hong walked out from the corner. She looked in the direction Si Yuan left and said to the thugs standing beside her, "Follow her." Yes. The group of thugs accepted the order and chased after Si Yuan. Sister Hong dodged and entered the private room of the bar. She swayed her butt and came to Boss Li. She replaced Gon Suya and sat on Boss Li's lap. She said to Boss Li with a seductive look, "How is it? Boss Li, are you satisfied with that girl just now?" Boss Li heard Sister Hong's words and revealed a wretched smile. Satisfied. Extremely satisfied. If she doesn't listen later, I'll inject her with a bucket of that thing. Once that thing is injected into her body, she won't be able to control it. In the future, she will definitely be the most lascivious woman in my bar. Sister Hong smiled and drew a few circles on Boss Li's chest. Judging from her appearance, she must be the prettiest barroom princess in your restaurant. Boss Li could almost imagine that scene. Meanwhile, Si Yuan had already reached the toilet. She looked around the toilet and didn't find a way to escape. Helplessly, she stayed in the toilet for a long time before peeping around. Seeing that there was no one around, she ran frantically to the bar's entrance. However, just as she ran 2 steps, she was attacked by a few men from the side. Si Yuan had practiced with Xueqi before. She dodged twice, but she was soon at a disadvantage. She was caught. Si Yuan didn't have any physical training because Yun Jian and Ce spoiled her too much. Coupled with Xueqi's care, Si Yuan had lived a very good life since she was young. Let go. Let go of me. It's illegal to catch people like this. Si Yuan struggled and was caught in the private room. Inside the private room, Sister Hong looked at Si Yuan with her legs crossed. Seeing that Si Yuan was still frantically struggling, she stepped forward in her red high heels and slapped Si Yuan a few times. You still want to escape after entering my Pegasus nightclub? Sister Hong slapped Si Yuan's face, leaving a few red palm prints, before stopping. Yes, yes. Yuan Tianqi hurriedly nodded. Hold her down and inject her. Sister Hong no longer pretended and immediately revealed her ugliest face. Immediately, someone walked towards Si Yuan with a large syringe. Gon Suya was so scared that she shrank to the side and trembled. The few big bosses looked at him with a meaningful look. Girls who did not have parents by their side were usually unwilling to come out after being tricked into such places. That's right. Other than accidentally ingesting drugs, they could also be forcibly injected into the body. It was just like the syringe the doctor gave you when you were getting an injection in the hospital. The only difference was that this syringe contained drugs. Once injected with drugs, the person's life would be over. If Si Yuan was injected with drugs, she would definitely be addicted to the taste of drugs. At this time, not to mention having sex with someone casually in exchange for drugs, even if she had to break her hands and feet, when the drug addiction came up, it was possible for her to do it. Forced injection of drugs. They only dared to do this because Si Yuan was an orphan. But the people around them only watched and remained silent. Some were even gloating. The big bosses were eager to make a move. They even began to discuss how they would share Si Yuan's delicacy later. Just as Sister Hong's subordinate was about to inject the drugs into Si Yuan's arm with the syringe, the door of the private room was violently smashed open. The person who was smashed into the room was a nightclub waiter. What's going on? Sister Hong's eyes moved. Just as Sister Hong's eyes flickered, a tall and slender figure stepped into the room. The moment they saw Yun Jian, Gon Suya and Yuan Tianqi almost cried out in surprise. Sister Hong even muttered, "Where did this ugly girl come from? Hurry up and chase her out." Just as she said that, Yun Jian had already made her way to Sister Hong's thug who was about to inject Si Yuan with a syringe in his hand. "Quick! Hurry up and catch her!" Sister Hong shouted when she saw this. But just as Sister Hong finished speaking, Yun Jian suddenly flipped her hands. 10 razor blades appeared between her fingers. She didn't even look at the razor blades in her hand. The razor blades flew out and directly slashed the necks of Sister Hong's subordinates in front of everyone present. In the next second, the 10 subordinates stopped breathing and fell to the ground one after another. She killed someone. Sister Hong was thoroughly frightened. She frantically retreated backwards, together with Yuan Tianqi and the other bosses. They all retreated to a corner of the room where they couldn't retreat any further. You, who exactly are you? Someone come. She killed someone. She killed someone. Just as Sister Hong was screaming in fear, Yun Jian's lips curved into a red arc. In the next second, she tore off her mask in front of everyone, revealing her original face. Exquisite and beautiful, it was a stunning face that was 80% similar to Si Yuan's. But what frightened everyone and made them tremble was not Yun Jian's beautiful face, but Yun Jian took light steps and stood in front of everyone who was huddled in the corners of the private room. Just as Si Yuan's face was covered in tears and everyone's faces were pale from fright, she suddenly spoke. Congratulations, you're about to become the 17th headless murder victim of Slaying God's Return. Chapter 2651. The 17th victim of the headless murder case. The headless murder case. The eerie voice that came out of Yun Jian's mouth made everyone's eyes widen. Especially when Yun Jian killed 10 living people with a blade in a single move. It was eerie and cruel. Sister Hong, Yuan Tianqi, and the few big bosses who were sitting in the room and waiting with wretched expressions for Si Yuan to be injected with drugs and let them do whatever they wanted were all curled up in the corners of the room. They looked like they were dying to hide in the corner of the room so that they could escape. Headless murder case. Who are you? Yuan Tianqi's eyes bulged like a dead fish's as she glared at Yun Jian, her face pale. 2019 was the era of internet technology. In this day and age, even the slightest thing that happened could be transmitted to the internet and become popular overnight. In short, even a small matter could spread across the globe. The dozens of headless murder cases in Longmen City that even the police with modern technology could not investigate had long spread across the country, arousing suspicions among the netizens. Right now, the murderer of the headless murder case was standing in front of everyone, killing 10 of Sister Hong's subordinates in one move. Everyone present was indescribably shocked. What was more shocking was that it was not slaying God. Unlike Sister Hong, Yuan Tianqi, and the rest, one of the bosses finally reacted and exclaimed in shock. Could it be the top international secret agent who was reported dead 3 years ago, slaying God? After the boss exclaimed, another boss who was huddled in the corner reacted immediately and was scared out of his wits. Who was slaying God? Slaying God had been popular in the assassin secret agent world for decades. Her name alone was enough to scare people out of their wits. She was already dead and was once the pinnacle of existence in the world, a king that no one could reach. She had suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Those who weren't present at the scene would never be able to understand this kind of shock. We didn't see anything. We didn't see anything. We have no grudge against you. Please be magnanimous and show mercy. We can give you anything you want. Please let us go. In the private room, the most senior and most powerful boss among the group of big bosses suddenly crawled to Yun Jian from the corner of the private room like an animal and knelt down in front of Yun Jian. This boss was the one who wanted to take advantage of Si Yuan when she first entered the room. Originally, it was as glorious as it could be, but now, it was as pathetic as it could be. Yes, we have no enmity with you. Sister Hong pulled out a smile that was uglier than a crying face. Just as she was about to speak to Yun Jian. Mom. A trembling voice that was filled with disbelief and wild joy suddenly rang out. At this moment, everyone turned to look at the person who had spoken. However, Si Yuan threw herself into Yun Jian's arms and cried, Mom! I miss your mother so much. Slaying God, Mommy? Then Si Yuan is? However, Slaying God looked like she was only 19 years old. What was going on? Just as Yun Jian gently placed her head on Si Yuan's head and gave it a gentle rub, she lifted her foot slightly and stepped on the head of the boss who had just pounced on her and begged for mercy. In almost a second, she stepped on the boss's head and kicked it to the right. With a gotcha sound, the boss was directly sent to hell by the strange force of the kick before he could react. Dead. To Yun Jian, this scene was as skillful as cooking, but to the crowd, it struck fear into their hearts. At the same time, Yun Jian caressed Si Yuan's head and curled her lips into a faint smile that sent everyone into the prison of death. Next, whose turn is it? Chapter 2652. If it was said that the bosses in the room came to this kind of nightclub because they liked to play, then Yoon Jien's killing method just now was definitely the most frightening thing these bosses had ever seen in their lives. It was countless times more frightening than the exaggerated killing methods in the movies. Ah! Don't kill us. No. See Yuan, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I really didn't want to hurt you. I just wanted you to earn more money. Let me go. I beg you. Let me go. I really know I was wrong. Yuan Tianqi saw everything that happened in front of her clearly. When she saw the boss kneeling in front of Yoon Jian being stepped on by Yoon Jian on the fatal point of his head and killed instantly, she was so scared that her lips and teeth were trembling violently. She desperately pulled at the hem of Yoon Jian's clothes and shrank behind her. Her legs were weak, and she was 5 centimeters away from kneeling in front of Yoon Jian. She wanted to use Si Yuan to make Yoon Jian let her go. However, Yuan Tianqi saw hatred in Si Yuan's eyes. Si Yuan, who grew up beside Yoon Jian and Ce, wasn't a rich young lady who couldn't bear to see a drop of blood. Although she didn't usually deal with things personally, she had seen plenty of bloody things. Hence, when Yoon Jian dealt with this group of people one by one, Si Yuan's face didn't reveal any fear. Yuan Tianqi didn't dare to approach Yoon Jian at all, afraid that she would end up like the boss who knelt in front of Yoon Jian just now. However, she saw that Si Yuan didn't want to pay attention to her at all, so she shrank back to Hong Jie's side. Hong. Hong Jie, save me. Yuan Tianqi was almost scared to death. She desperately grabbed Hong Jie's hand and begged. Hiding in a corner, Hong Jie had actually already sent out a text message. It was to ask her superiors to call for reinforcements. After being pulled by Yuan Tianqi, Sister Hong was afraid that Yuan Tianqi would implicate her, so she fiercely pushed Yuan Tianqi in front of Yoon Jian. She wanted to use this to stall for time so that she could save herself. Yuan Tianqi was abruptly pushed in front of Yoon Jian. She was so scared that her face was smudged, and her foundation was soaked in sweat. Ah! Don't kill me! After being pushed in front of Yoon Jian, Yuan Tianqi was so scared that he was like a tortoise that desperately flipped over. His hands and feet were frantically flapping about, fearing that Yoon Jian would touch a certain part of his body and kill him. His posture of being slapped by the wind was no different from a job-hopping clown. Just as Yuan Tianqi was frantically flailing his arms and legs in an attempt to stop Yoon Jian from approaching him, suddenly, a group of people walked in from outside the big box. When she saw that the person leading the group was her solid backer, Sister Hong rushed to him almost immediately. Brother Li, save me! Save me! The leader, who was called Brother Li, pushed Sister Hong away without a trace. With a very respectful posture, he invited the handsome man walking behind him into the box. Sister Hong suddenly remembered that Brother Li had once told her that Brother Li was working with a very mysterious big boss. Could it be the handsome man who had just walked into the private room? Brother Hearing had boasted that this mysterious big boss behind the scenes was even more powerful than Slaying God, who was ranked first on the international secret agent ranking. When she turned her head and saw this handsome man walk into the room, Sister Hong felt that she was saved. She cleared her throat and spoke to the handsome man. She pointed at Yoon Jian in the room and said loudly with a half-smile, "You're here to save us, right? She's the one who's causing trouble. Please." Before Sister Hong could finish, Si Yuan, who stood beside Yoon Jian, dashed to the handsome man and grabbed his hand, telling him tearfully, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Dad. Chapter 2653. Dad. Si Yuan. She actually called this handsome man who looked to be in his 20s father. What was wrong with this world? Everyone's face, including Sister Hong's, instantly turned pale. Dad? Brother Li. Sister Hong's face gradually turned pale. She had a very bad feeling about this. At this moment, Sister Hong was looking at Brother Li, seeking an answer. Brother Li glared at Sister Hong fiercely. He bent down and smiled at Ce. My slaves here didn't do it on purpose. You see. Although Brother Li glared at Sister Hong fiercely, he still pleaded with Ce in private for Sister Hong's sake. Bang. Ce didn't say anything. He took out a silver pistol from his waist. Without even looking, he aimed the gun at Brother Li's head and shot him in the head. After that, Ce lifted his leg and kicked Brother Li's corpse out of the room. He then looked at Si Yuan from the corner of his eyes. Are you okay? Ce could be so gentle to Yoon Jian that it made people's hearts ache. However, Ce was like Yunjian to Siyuan. They were both from 2004. To Ce, it was as simple as seeing a 15-year-old daughter as one of his own. "Dad, I'm fine." Siyuan nodded heavily. Her tears were falling, and there was even a string of snot on her nose. She looked quite cute. It wasn't hard to explain why Siyuan could recognize Yunjian and Ce at a glance. Yunjian was the sorcerer goddess of Yulong mainland, and Ce was the lord of gods mainland. The immortal cultivators of the mainland could generally live for more than 1,000 years. Some of the more powerful ones could even live forever. For humans, 15 years could change a person's appearance from young to old. However, for Yunjian and Ce, this didn't exist. Because 3 years ago, in 2016, they still maintained their youthful appearance. Sister Hong had not expected that her only savior, Brother Li, would be killed by Ce in a single shot the moment he arrived. Her expression could not be described with just one word. You all." As Sister Hong spoke, she retreated backwards. Her face was so pale that it could not be any paler. Yuan Tianqi struggled as he retreated to a corner of the room. At this time, Siyuan pulled Ce to Yunjian's side. She pulled Yunjian's hand over and placed it on top of Ce's hand. "Dad, Mom, you're still alive. That's great." As she spoke, Siyuan wanted to cry again. Yunjian raised her hand to wipe away Siyuan's tears and cast a sharp glance at Hongjie and Yuan Tianqi. "After dealing with these, I'll take you out for supper." Huzhou City, a roadside barbecue shop. Siyuan sat inside the barbecue shop with a skewer in each hand. She looked like she hadn't eaten such delicious food in a long time. She ate in big bites while drinking Sprite. Seeing Yunjian and Ce looking at her, Siyuan wiped her face and said to Yunjian and Ce, "Dad, Mom, you guys eat too." As she spoke, Siyuan picked up 2 skewers of mutton and gave one to Yunjian and one to Ce. Needless to say, after growing up, Siyuan really had the urge to pinch her cheeks. She was very cute. Judging from her appearance, Yunjian was not much older than Siyuan and so was Ce. Therefore, when the young man selling skewers heard Siyuan's words, his foot, which was holding a plate of skewers, slipped. He stopped in time and couldn't help but shout at Siyuan, "What the hell? Are you playing house?" Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2654. This young man was tall and thin, but he didn't look good. His nose was a little flat, and his mouth was a little crooked. So when he said this, Siyuan was amused. "This is my dad, and this is my mom. What do you think? Young enough?" Siyuan couldn't help showing off. As she spoke, Siyuan thought of another person. She bent down and nibbled on the mutton skewer in her hand. Suddenly, she didn't want to talk anymore. Fine. I'm old. I don't understand the games of young people." The young man brought the barbecue plate to Yunjian and Ce's table. He scratched his head and continued to work on his barbecue. Next, we have news. The Pegasus nightclub in Huzhou City in An province suddenly caught fire. Just now, fire trucks were sent to rescue, but because the fire was too big and too fierce, many people were still trapped inside and couldn't be rescued. Currently, further rescue efforts are underway. Hopefully, more people can be rescued. For the latest news, please pay attention to our TV station. We will report the details as soon as possible. The TV in the barbecue restaurant that was originally playing cartoons suddenly broadcast such news. Everyone sitting around heard it. The Pegasus nightclub was a popular place for men in Huzhou City to pass time. The girls here were clearly priced. If you had the money, you could take them away. The reason why such a place wasn't closed down was because of the power and influence. Now that such a thing happened, the people sitting in the barbecue restaurant started to talk. The Pegasus nightclub. How could it burn down just like that? Hey, you don't understand. Most likely they met an enemy. The girls in the Pegasus nightclub are all very beautiful. It's a pity that it was burned down. The vulgar discussions of a few bachelors at the table next to them could be heard. Yunjian, Ce, and Siyuan ignored them. Needless to say, she was the one who set the fire. Yunjian didn't let go of anyone who participated in the murder of Siyuan. Siyuan didn't ask about the arrival of Yunjian and Ce. In fact, when Siyuan left, Siyuan knew that Siyuan went to the past and wanted to change history. Now, Ce already knew the identities and backgrounds of Yunjian and Ce. As she ate the barbecue skewers in her mouth, the forced smile on her face slowly disappeared. She raised her head abruptly and said to Yunjian and Ce, "Dad, Mom, it's so good to see you again." At the end of her speech, Yuan seemed to recall something and her tone suddenly became choked with sobs. Yunjian patted Yuan's back. She didn't know how to comfort the child, so she just asked, "What's wrong?" "Dad, Mom, can you not leave me? I'm afraid that everyone will leave me. I don't want to be alone anymore. That guy Xueqi once said that he would stay by my side and protect me, but he still left. He died for me. I don't want to wander alone anymore." Sob, sob, sob. Yuan suddenly gave up her fake smile, buried her head on the table, and burst into tears. Just as Yuan was burying her head in the ground and bursting into tears, she suddenly felt someone pressing on her shoulder. Then, her head was lifted up by someone's hand. When she saw the person who had once died to save her appear in front of her, Yuan was stunned. The person who came was none other than Xueqi, who was supposed to be dead. Back then, Xueqi had pulled Yuan's hand into his embrace right in front of Ce and Yunjian. He ignored Ce's sharp gaze that swept over and rubbed Yuan's head, telling her, "What's the matter? Silly, how could I die? Don't forget, you promised me before that you would be my wife." Chapter 2655. Her head was suddenly pushed up by someone. She heard the magnetic voice of the man she thought had died for her. Yuan's head swayed for a while. Xueqi, who was in his 20s, had already grown up to be fresh and handsome. His youthful appearance had faded away. The current Xueqi was no longer the immature little kid from before. Even when he stood next to Ce, he was not inferior in terms of height. Xueqi, you big bastard, you didn't die? Do you know how sad I was when I saw you die? Why didn't you die, you big bastard? Yuan's body froze when Xueqi suddenly pulled her into his arms. When she came back to her senses, she hit Xueqi's chest twice with all her might. Tears streamed down her face. After Yuan hit his chest twice, Xueqi cracked a smile. He reached out and gently placed his hand on Yuan's head. He comforted her but did not say anything. Just as Xueqi placed his hand on Yuan's head and gently stroked it, his collar was suddenly pulled back. Ce, who was originally sitting with Yunjian, was now standing behind Xueqi. She practically grabbed Xueqi's collar and pulled him away from Yuan. "Sit over there." Ce mercilessly dragged Xueqi to a bench a few seats away from Yuan. His eyes were cold. "Dad, what are you doing?" Yuan saw Xueqi being pulled away by Ce. She pouted and wiped away her tears. She was not pretentious. Ce looked like he was only in his 20s. However, he was called Dad by a 16-year-old girl. The people around the barbecue shop looked at him strangely. Ce did not respond to Yunjian's words. He took a lamb skewer, which was Yunjian's favorite, from the barbecue plate and personally delivered it to Yunjian's mouth. Ce and Yunjian were from 2004 to 2019, so they didn't get along with their daughter, Yuan, and they weren't very close. However, blood ties could not be broken. When Xueqi hugged Ce in front of her, Ce instinctively grabbed Xueqi's collar and pulled him behind her. "Mom, Dad is bullying me." Seeing that Ce was ignoring her, Yuan sat on the stool and slowly moved to Yunjian's side. Then, she reached out and grabbed Yunjian's arm. She pouted and looked aggrieved. Yunjian didn't say anything. She raised her eyebrows and rubbed Ce's head. She glared at Ce and didn't take the mutton skewers that Ce handed over to her. She was giving face to Ce on behalf of Ce. Yuan understood Yunjian, and she understood Ce even more. She knew that once her mother did that, her father would. Sure enough, Ce's face immediately darkened. Looking at her expression, she wasn't happy at all. "Mom, I want to sleep with you tonight." "Okay." Yuan had already grabbed Yunjian's arm and put her head on Yunjian's shoulder. She looked like she wouldn't give up until she snatched Yunjian from Ce. "Okay." What made Ce's face even more gloomy was that Yunjian actually nodded in agreement. "No." After Yunjian agreed, Ce immediately said with a sullen face. His voice was so loud that all the customers in the barbecue shop turned to look. However, Ce didn't care. "Why, Dad, I'll just borrow her for a day and return her to you tomorrow. I'm scared to sleep alone today. I think of them when I close my eyes now. Si Yuan shook Yunjian's arm and acted coquettishly to Ce. Of course, she was referring to the people who were involved in the incident at Pegasus nightclub. After Si Yuan finished speaking, she knew that with Ce's pampering personality, she would definitely agree. However, just as she finished speaking, Ce grabbed the confused Xueqi and pushed him in front of Si Yuan. He'll sleep with you tonight. Don't steal my woman. Chapter 2656. The moment Ce said this, Xueqi, who was still thinking, was completely dumbfounded. Huh! Xueqi had his hand on his head and was deep in thought. Now that he heard Ce's words, he seemed to have been struck by lightning. He stood rooted to the ground, stunned. The future Ce doted on Si Yuan a lot. He gave Si Yuan whatever she wanted. Everyone said that Ce doted on Si Yuan to the heavens. However, he was very strict with Si Yuan. For example, she was not allowed to stay out at night. She had to be home before dark at 7 p.m. She was not allowed to hold hands with men. She was not allowed to have intimate contact with men. He was as strict as he could be. The future Ce wanted Si Yuan to be obedient even if he had to give Yunjian to her for a day. However, the 2004 Ce actually pushed Xueqi to Si Yuan. Si Yuan. Xueqi. Dad, you weren't like this in the past. Although Si Yuan knew that Ce was from 2004, she could not help but smile when she heard Ce's words. Ahem. Xueqi scratched his head calmly. Then I'll accept your offer. Xueqi would not let go of such a good opportunity. Xueqi had been taught by his father since he was young. If you wanted a woman, don't say anything. Take her as your own first. Adam had instilled this idea in Xueqi since he was young. He even told Xueqi that he had forcefully taken over Lan Su and forced Lan Su to be with him in the end. However, the future Ce protected Si Yuan too well and did not give Xueqi a chance to make a move. Xueqi would never have thought that it would not be him playing tricks this time. It would be Ce who would personally send his daughter to his bed. Dad, I don't want to. When Si Yuan heard that Ce wanted her to sleep in the same room as Xueqi, her first reaction was to be shy and then resist. Although Si Yuan did have thoughts of being closer to Xueqi than treating him as an older brother, she did have the feelings of a young girl towards Xueqi. But to sleep in the same room as Xueqi, wasn't this? Was he going to discover the secret that she didn't want to tell anyone during her teenage years? Then I'll sleep alone. Ce remained expressionless the entire time. Please don't, Dad. I'm really scared. Si Yuan held Yunjian's hand, looking aggrieved. However, no matter how aggrieved she felt, Ce would not let go. Yunjian sat at the side and smiled faintly. Yunjian and the others were sitting at the barbecue restaurant's table. They were surrounded by large tents, and Yunjian and the others were sitting in a corner. Even if people passed by, they wouldn't notice them. After the barbecue was served, Ce started discussing business with Xueqi. Yunjian and Ce had been in 2019 for a short period of time, but in fact, it hadn't been long. It had only been 1 or 2 months. Ce was indeed the leader of an Hun. In just 1 or 2 months, Ce returned to the international scene and directly took back all of an Hun's scattered forces. Her speed was so fast that Yuan Xing and Xueqi, who were leading the way, were shocked. Yes, except for Ce and Xingfeng who didn't die. Yuan Xing and Xueqi both survived. However, Xueqi faked his own death in order to secretly investigate the mysterious person. Of course, Xueqi had secretly sent people to protect Si Yuan for the past 3 years. However, because he was afraid that the mysterious person would notice, he didn't dare to show up or protect her too tightly. At this moment, Xueqi was telling Ce all the information he had investigated over the years to Ce. Chapter 2657. I've searched all over the world. The mysterious man is currently residing in Jia Province's Longmen City. There was no one around, but for safety's sake, Xueqi lowered his voice and spoke to Ce softly. Si Yuan was still like a child. She ate the skewers in big bites. The oil on the skewers dripped down and landed on her collar. Yunjian was wiping the oil that had dripped onto Si Yuan's collar with a tissue. While she was wiping the oil off Si Yuan's collar, Yunjian was also listening to Xueqi. Xueqi had already said this to Ce. He repeated it this time mainly for Yun Jian. There must be a hiding place for the mysterious man somewhere in Country Z's Longmen City. According to his understanding of you, this mysterious man is probably someone who has been lurking in Longmen City since Aunt Yun Jian was reborn. In other words, before the mysterious man became a mysterious man, he knew everything that happened to Aunt Yun Jian in the future like the back of his hand. So now, we only need to start from the people Aunt Yun Jian came into contact with in Longmen City before. Zhou Yiran had obtained sufficient evidence, which was why he said those words. Yun Jian's eyes narrowed. First of all, the mysterious man was not a mysterious man from the beginning. He was just an ordinary human on Earth in the beginning. This was the first point. After the mystery man became the mystery man in the future world, he returned to the mystery continent. Ambition swallowed him up, and he was not satisfied with that. So in order to get rid of the sovereign god of the gods continent, he ambushed the sorcerer goddess, whom the sovereign god admired. It was then that the witch goddess was rescued by the Lord God and unintentionally went to Earth. On Earth in this era, he who had yet to become a mysterious man was still an ordinary person. The two dimensions were in disarray. As the witch goddess, Yun Jian must have met the mysterious man who had yet to become a mysterious man. The future could be changed. When the mysterious man returned to the beginning of the divine continent, he changed the future of the divine continent as well as himself. That was to say, before he became the mysterious man, he met Yun Jian and learned more about Yun Jian. Therefore, after becoming a mysterious man, he basically knew Yun Jian's future. This was the key. Therefore, it was both simple and complicated to find the mysterious man. First, they had to list all the people Yun Jian had come into contact with when she was reborn in Longmen City. Secondly, he had to find someone who knew Yun Jian's whereabouts from the list. That person might be the mysterious man. As long as you know who the mysterious man is, Uncle Ce and Aunt Yun Jian, you can immediately go back 15 years and kill the mysterious man before he became the mysterious man. Then, none of this would have happened. Zhou Yiran's mind was very clear. He quickly sorted out a list of disgust and told it to Yun Jian and Ce. Stepping through the door of time and space, a person could change history. The disarray of time and space was not non-existent. If you changed history alone, the future would be changed as well. When the people in the future discovered the door of time and space, the original historical trajectory would be turned upside down. Zhou Yiran did not know that it was because he was so young but had such a bright mind that Ce asked him to sleep with her at night. M. Chapter 2658. What are you talking about? Why can't I understand a single word? Si Yuan was still young. She took a bite of the freshly cooked sausage and tilted her head to look at Zhou Yiran. Then, she looked at Yun Jian and Ce with a face full of confusion. She looked cute and ignorant. I'm here. You don't need to understand these things. Zhou Yiran's hand was very long, and his knuckles were unusually long. He reached out and rubbed Ce's head in front of her as he spoke. Oh! Being rubbed by Zhou Yiran in front of her parents, Si Yuan's face instantly flushed red. She lowered her head and did not dare to look at Zhou Yiran's face because she was too shy. Yun Jian tapped the table twice with her fingers. She frowned slightly. After a while she suddenly said, I remember all the people I've met clearly. Tomorrow, I'll write down all the information of all the people I've met. Leave this to me. Yun Jian's memory was very good. This was not an exaggeration. A person would meet many people in a lifetime, but except for most of the important people, it was difficult to remember all the people who had appeared around you clearly. But Yun Jian could. Since the mysterious man must be someone close to her, she would be able to find out the identity of the mysterious man before he dealt with her. Then, she would dare to go back to 2004 and kill him before he became the mysterious man. Okay, Aunt Yun Jian, I'll leave this matter to you. After you've sorted out all the information of the people you've met, I'll analyze it and narrow down the target. Zhou Yiran said to Yun Jian. Yun Jian was still a little surprised by Zhou Yiran's analytical ability. Although she was surprised, the more capable Zhou Yiran was, the more assured Yun Jian and Ce would be to leave Si Yuan in Zhou Yiran's care. Tsk, Yun Jian and the other two were talking about important matters. The grease from Si Yuan's barbecue splashed everywhere. In the end, it even splashed onto Zhou Yiran's clothes, who was sitting quite far away from her. Coincidentally, Zhou Yiran's clothes were splattered with grease from the skewers in Si Yuan's hands. However, Xueqi did not have the slightest intention of blaming Si Yuan. On the contrary, he looked at Si Yuan with doting eyes. At night, because Si Yuan was scared, she kept pestering Yun Jian to sleep with her. In the end, Ce dragged Xueqi in front of Si Yuan, while Ce hugged Yun Jian's shoulders and went back to the room. I hate Daddy the most. Humph. Si Yuan snorted and shouted at Ce's back. After giving Xueqi one last look, she suddenly ran back into her room. Xueqi touched his nose. He had no intention of going back to his room just because he was a gentleman. After 20 minutes, Xueqi opened the door to Si Yuan's bedroom. Si Yuan had already showered, and the fragrance of a young girl continuously wafted into his nose. Xueqi, why did you come in, you big baddie? Get out, get out. Si Yuan was wearing pajamas. Her hands were on her waist, and she looked like she wanted to chase Xueqi away. Your dad asked me to accompany you. Xueqi smiled, looking like he was forced by Ce to come here to look for Si Yuan. Si Yuan was still a little scared. After all, she had suffered too much at night. Finally, she pouted. Then you have to leave after I fall asleep. You have to. These words made Xueqi's lips curl up again. He smiled devilishly. Okay. He would leave after she fell asleep. That was impossible. But he would not let Si Yuan hear this. At this moment, Si Yuan was shy because she did not wear underwear after showering. Like Yun Jian, Si Yuan's chest was very big. After wearing her pajamas at night, her chest was swollen. Afraid that Xueqi would see her not wearing her pajamas, Si Yuan quickly shrank back into her bed. At this moment, Xueqi walked toward the bed. But just as Xueqi took 2 steps towards this side, he suddenly stepped on something under his feet. The moment he stopped and hooked up the thing he stepped on, Si Yuan's face suddenly turned from red to red. That was, she. She had casually thrown her bra on the ground. She had forgotten to put it away. Chapter 2659. Si Yuan was usually adorable and delicate, inheriting both Yun Jian's stunning looks and Ce's chiseled features. She was a perfect girl who was both beautiful and adorable. However, Si Yuan was not as beautiful as she looked. Usually, Si Yuan did not allow anyone to enter her room, except for Yun Jian. At night, she would go to her room and take off all her clothes. Then, she would go to the bathroom in her room to take a shower. She would put on her pajamas and lie on the bed to sleep. As for the underwear that she had taken off, Si Yuan would just throw them on the bed and the floor. Because the floor was covered with a furry carpet, after entering Si Yuan's room, one would usually walk barefoot on the furry carpet. The floor was not dirty. When Xueqi suddenly entered the room, Si Yuan did not think too much about it. She was only wearing her pajamas and did not wear any underwear. She was afraid that Xueqi would see that she had slept with him, so she kept covering herself and even crawled onto the bed. However, the moment she saw Xueqi pick up the D-bra that she had just thrown on the floor, Si Yuan's face turned so red that it was as if it had been cooked. Xueqi stared at the red cartoon bra in his hand. He could not react to what this thing was. Don't touch my things. Give it back to me. Si Yuan had already pounced over from the bed. She even forgot that she was not wearing any underwear. She reached out and grabbed the bra in Xueqi's hand. However, because she pounced too fiercely, Si Yuan threw herself into Xueqi's arms. Xueqi was only wearing a thin white t-shirt. When Si Yuan threw herself into his embrace, he could even feel her breasts that were not wearing any undergarments. Ah! Get out, get out, get out! Si Yuan felt that her face was as hot as boiling water. She pushed Xueqi and wanted him to leave. However, Xueqi only then realized that the thing that he had just aroused was actually hers. Cough. I just returned the rental key to the landlord. There's nowhere to sleep nearby. Therefore, he would not leave this place even if he was beaten to death. Xueqi's expression did not change as he played his tricks. That still. Si Yuan hugged her bra and wished she could stuff it into her arms so that Xueqi would never see it again. But before she could say no, her voice suddenly stopped. Because before Si Yuan could say anything, Xueqi had already pulled her into his arms. Yuan, I missed you so much. I missed you for 3 years. 3 years ago, your brother asked me to hide my identity and secretly investigate the whereabouts of the mysterious man. He said that not seeing you was the best way to protect you. I really want to hug you. I want to comb your hair for you like before. I want to bathe you and feed you like when you were young. Yuan, I've waited for you for 3 years. Don't chase me away. These words were filled with deep affection. They were not the flowery words of a man to a woman, but words that came from the depths of his soul. Xueqi and Si Yuan were childhood sweethearts and had grown up together. Although Xueqi had been thrown into the Amazon forest by Ce for a few years, he had gone through the training that Ce had given him, which was even crueler than the training that Hun had given him. But for Si Yuan, Xueqi was willing. Because he wanted to protect her with his life. Si Yuan's eyes were wet when she heard Xueqi's words. 3 years ago, Si Yuan was only 12 or 13 years old. They had bathed together and dressed for her when she was young. But at that time, Si Yuan also vaguely knew that someone had been secretly protecting her during the past 3 years. Si Yuan's hands involuntarily wrapped around Xueqi's sturdy chest. She nodded heavily. Yes. The atmosphere was originally very good, and Si Yuan was almost moved to tears. However, Xueqi, who was being hugged by Si Yuan, suddenly said, "Don't worry, I'm sorry." So Yuan, can I bathe you like before at night? Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2660. In 2016, when Yunjian, Ce, and the rest perished together after the battle with the mysterious person, Si Yuan was only 12 or 13 years old. She was still a child. In Si Yuan's subconscious, she thought that Xueqi had died in the battle to save her. Of course, this was not the main point. The main point was that before Si Yuan was 12 or 13 years old, Xueqi had bathed her when she was still young. Nevertheless, that was when she was young. Between the ages of 12 and 15, Xueqi had disappeared from Si Yuan's world for 3 whole years. After 3 years, Si Yuan had grown from a bean sprout to a curvy young lady with at least a D cup. Many of the areas that she did not have when she was a little girl were now fully developed, especially her protruding breasts that were mesmerizing. Si Yuan was aware that she was no longer the bean sprout she used to be when she was young, so she blushed when Xueqi suddenly said that. In the next second, Si Yuan pushed Xueqi and shouted at Xueqi with a red face, "What are you doing? Pervert!" With that, she grabbed her bra, crawled under her blanket, and didn't say a word. Xueqi scratched his head, recalling Si Yuan's blushing face when she pushed him. He smirked softly. In the end, Si Yuan did not let Xueqi leave her room. It was just Si Yuan sleeping on the bed while Xueqi slept on the floor. The next day, Yunjian wrote down all the people she had met since she was reborn in Longmen City, including their behavior and what they had done, on a stack of white paper and handed it to Xueqi. Yunjian's handwriting was beautiful and elegant. She had written a stack of black words on the white paper, but not a single word was crooked due to too much writing. "Thank you, Auntie Yunjian. I'll eliminate all the insignificant characters 3 days later and narrow down the target," Xueqi said to Yunjian after taking the stack of white paper. "Take good care of Yuan. However, Yunjian took Si Yuan's hand away from Xueqi's and personally placed Si Yuan's hand in Xueqi's. "Mom, don't you want me anymore?" Hearing this, Si Yuan became anxious and quickly asked, "Follow him. No matter what happens, don't leave his side. When everything is over, I will always be by your side." Yunjian was clearly only 19 years old. She was as young as a flower, but at this moment, she was speaking to Si Yuan in a very old and deep voice. Xueqi rubbed Yunjian's head and solemnly promised her, "I will protect her with my life." "See you in 3 days then." Yunjian nodded. 3 days later, she would come back to get the list of targets that Xueqi had analyzed. After speaking, Yunjian and Ce looked at each other and turned around. In less than 10 seconds, they disappeared in front of Xueqi and Ce. Si Yuan watched as her parents, whom she missed dearly, left again. She held Xueqi's large hand tightly. No matter how reluctant she was in her heart, she endured it. "Xueqi, you'll treat me well, right?" Si Yuan held Xueqi's hand tightly. Her eyes were still looking in the direction that Yunjian and Ce had left. Xueqi's smile rose slightly. He suddenly grabbed Si Yuan's small hand and pulled her in the opposite direction. At the same time, he blurted out a sentence that made Si Yuan feel at ease. "Okay." Naturally, he would do his best to love her well. M. Chapter 2661. After Yunjian and Ce left, Ce parted ways with Yunjian as well, agreeing to meet again 3 days later. If she was to do something, Ce had to expand her influence. Yunjian, on the other hand, returned to Longmen City. Since Zhou Iran said that the mysterious person was most likely from Longmen City, she would definitely be able to find some clues when she returned. It was a restaurant on Chunqing Road in Longmen City. The restaurant had just opened recently and its business was booming. The staff was so busy that they took in many apprentices. Yunjian disguised herself as a normal person again and applied for a job in the restaurant. She was now an intern in the restaurant. "Qi, clear this table quickly. We're about to serve the next table of guests." "What are you guys dawdling about for? Can't you see that the guests at the door have been waiting for a long time? Clear it up quickly." The manager of Teppan restaurant had his hands on his hips as he gestured at Yunjian and the employees in the restaurant. Qi was Yunjian's alias. Yunjian's eyes flickered. She cleared the table quickly, so the manager who was already high and mighty liked Yunjian quite a bit. It was because Yunjian alone could finish a few people's work. The restaurant closed punctually at 10 o'clock at night. After closing the door, Yunjian changed out of her uniform and was ready to leave. "Qi, let's go together." A girl's sweet voice came from behind them. It was a girl named Murong Ranran from the restaurant. Murong Ranran took good care of Yunjian. Yunjian nodded. She agreed not because Murong Ranran took good care of her. Instead, "Do you know if anything major happened in Longmen City in the past year?" Yunjian was the first to ask. Murong Ranran was taken aback by Yunjian's question before she replied, "Anything major? I don't think so." There seems to be one." As she spoke, Murong Ranran turned to look at Yunjian in surprise and asked, "Qi, you're interested in this?" Yunjian nodded. "Then you've got the wrong person. I know a few buddies and they're very familiar with the big and small incidents that happened in Longmen City in the past few years. Do you want me to bring you to them to ask?" Murong Ranran asked again. "Sure." Yunjian nodded. Since the mysterious person was from Longmen City and must be related to Yunjian somehow, they should be able to gain something from the recent incidents in Longmen City. After all, there had to be a way for the mysterious person to become a mysterious. It was impossible for him to abandon everything on Earth for no reason and head to Deity Continent to go after Yunjian and Ce. Murong Ranran did know a few hooligans in the society. Of course, they were just ordinary hooligans in the society. There were no underworld forces in this era. No matter how these hooligans were in the society, they would never commit murder. At most, they would just put on an act. As expected, when Murong Ranran brought Yunjian to meet the hooligans, the leader who looked more like a hooligan but was not handsome had to cross the railing of the road. There were no cars at this time. When he saw Yunjian looking over, he exerted force on his legs and jumped over the railing that was only 40 to 50 centimeters high as if it was effortless. He even patted his pants before going to Yunjian. He did not look at Yunjian but as if he wanted to act cool in front of Yunjian. He pulled a handful of his hair and spoke to Murong Ranran handsomely. "What's the matter?" "Sis Ranran, you're looking for me?" Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2662. Murong Ranran knew the leader of the thugs. She nodded and spoke to him. "Brother Zhanghong, my friend wants to know something. Can you tell her in detail?" Zhanghong was a friend of Murong Ranran's brother. He specialized in collecting information, so the thugs behind him had heard about the happenings in the streets and alleys of Longmen City. I thought it was something big." Zhanghong turned his head to look at Yunjian. Yunjian's figure was perfect but she looked ordinary because she was wearing a human skin mask. Zhanghong had taken a look at Yunjian's figure from afar, and did not look at Yunjian's face when he walked over to look cool. Now that he saw Yunjian's face, which was ordinary, his desire vanished instantly. In spite of it, Zhanghong gave in to Murong Ranran's request. "Of course, but I'll charge you," Zhanghong said bluntly. If it were a pretty girl, Zhanghong would not consider charging her. "Brother Zhanghong, why are you like this? Qi is my friend. Can you?" Murong Ranran was stunned and was about to speak when Zhanghong interrupted her. Yunjian suddenly took out a stack of 100 yuan from her backpack and handed it to him expressionlessly. "Is this enough?" "Yes." Cough. Yes, yes, yes. Zhang Zhanghong quickly took the stack of 100 yuan from Yun Jian and pressed it against his chest, asking Yun Jian, "What do you want to know? What accidents have happened in Longmen City in the past year? I want details." Yun Jian maintained her cold expression. Cough. You said that there have been a lot of accidents in Longmen City in the past year. I remember that an old house in Shangtong village caught on fire this year and someone died. There was also a big boss in Longmen City's suburbs who accidentally caused a gas explosion in his house. He had a lot of diesel in his house and the explosion added fuel to the fire and many people died. Zhang Zhanghong rested his chin on his hand as he spoke, deep in thought. As he spoke, he suddenly recalled something and slapped his head hard, telling Yun Jian, "I remember now. I remember now. Something big happened in Longmen City recently. It's strange, but it happened a year ago." After Zhang Zhanghong told Yun Jian the details, Yun Jian's eyes narrowed. The next second, she didn't even say goodbye to Murong Ranran as she turned around and ran away. In less than 3 seconds, the news was in front of everyone. What are you doing? Zhang Zhanghong was dumbfounded when he saw Yun Jian run away, still clutching the 100 yuan she gave him in his arms. You're giving it all to me just like that? Zhang Zhanghong looked at Murong Ranran in surprise. On the other hand, Yun Jian flew back to Hezhou City, the city where Si Yuan and Zhou Yiran had temporarily settled down. Once she arrived, Yun Jian dashed into Zhou Yiran's room and spoke to him who was busy sorting out the information she had given him. Have you eliminated all the people who can't be the mysterious man? Zhou Yiran looked up and nodded, then passed a new set of information to Yun Jian. On this piece of paper was written all the people Yun Jian had met after she was reborn in Longmen City. She had eliminated those who could not be the mysterious man, leaving only those who were suspicious. Yun Jian scanned the paper from top to bottom. When she saw one of the names on the paper that overlapped with the main character of the incident she had heard, her eyes widened. She found it. This person must be the mysterious man's predecessor. This person was none other than M. Chapter 2663. Ahem, Auntie Yun Jian? Zhou Yiran saw Yun Jian's pupils suddenly shrink. He raised his eyes, and there was a trace of inquiry in his expression. Take good care of Yuan Yuan. Remember, no matter what happens, whether the future will be changed, whether he and I can survive, you must promise me that you will take good care of Yuan Yuan. Yun Jian held the piece of paper that Zhou Yiran had sorted out with a few suspected mysterious people on it. She did not wait for Zhou Yiran to ask her a question. After saying this solemnly, she walked out. As soon as she opened the door to Zhou Yiran's room, she saw Si Yuan holding a big rabbit doll. She rubbed her eyes and looked at Yun Jian. Mommy, where are you going? Si Yuan's big eyes blinked. They were very beautiful. It seemed that she had just woken up. Although Si Yuan was already 15 or 16 years old, she still maintained the innocence of a child. There were many things in the adult world that she did not understand. She needed to be protected. Follow him and don't run around. Yun Jian pulled Si Yuan in front of Zhou Yiran and said sternly. After saying this, Yun Jian lifted her feet and walked out of the door. Just as she took 2 steps, she felt that her clothes were tightly grasped by someone. Yun Jian's deep eyes narrowed again. She turned her head slightly and saw that Si Yuan was tightly grasping her clothes. She looked like she would not let go no matter what. Yun Jian was about to reprimand her, but she suddenly saw a trace of moisture flash across Si Yuan's eyes. Her heart tightened. 3 years ago, Mommy, you said this. I have been waiting for you at home, but all I got was the news that you and Daddy would never return to my side. Those days were undoubtedly Si Yuan's nightmares for the rest of her life. Si Yuan's hand tightly grasped Yun Jian's clothes. Her 5 fingers were clasped very tightly. Because she was grasping Yun Jian's clothes so tightly, Si Yuan's knuckles turned white. She shook up and down and trembled crazily. That kind of fear was engraved into Si Yuan's soul, and she would never forget it. Yun Jian was silent. After 10 seconds of dead silence, her other hand grabbed Si Yuan's small hand that was clutching the hem of her clothes. Then, he forcefully pulled away Si Yuan's small hand, which was gripping the hem of his shirt so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. I will definitely come back alive. After she finished speaking, Yun Jian pushed Si Yuan into Zhou Yiran's arms and closed the door behind her. Si Yuan's sudden loud cries were completely shut behind the door. Yun Jian took one last look. Xueqi hugged Si Yuan and did not let her rush out. Turning around, Yun Jian left without looking back. She swore that this time, she would come back alive. For the child, for the parents, and most importantly, for himself. At the entrance of the space-time forest, Yun Jian could see Ce and Yuan Xing who were standing not too far away from her from afar. She paused for a moment before she walked up against the wind. Yuan Jin was standing at the front. Seeing Yun Jian walking towards them, he asked Yun Jian softly, "Are you sure?" "Yes." Yun Jian nodded calmly. "Let's go." Ce walked over and held Yun Jian's hand. His large palm interlocked with Yun Jian's fingers. He pulled Yun Jian and walked towards the entrance of the forest of time and space. They were supposed to find the mystery man in 2019, but it seemed like there was no need for that now. Since they had already found the mystery man's identity, all they had to do was to return to 2004 before everything started and kill the mystery man who was still an ordinary person. Then, none of this would have happened. However, killing the mystery man who was still an ordinary person would change the laws of time and space. For example, if they killed the mystery man of the past, the mystery man in the future would not find the way to the mysterious mainland, and the sorcerer goddess of Yulong mainland and the Sir god of deity mainland would not have to come to Earth. Then, the sorcerer goddess would grow into the #1 international secret agent, slaying god, and become acquainted with everyone she met on Earth would not have happened. This was indeed the simplest method, but at the same time, it was also the most difficult. This was because when the mystery man of the past was killed, time and space would change. Perhaps Yun Jian, Qin Yiru, Gu Junjian, Yun Yi, and the rest would never know each other again. As the sorcerer goddess, Yun Jian would not have come to Earth if it were not for the mystery man. While she lived, she would lose everything she once had. However, if she killed Si Luo, Lang Mei, Di Lin, snake, lizard, tiger, leopard, and the rest from the future world, then she, Yun Jian, would rather change the chaotic history, kill the mystery man, and return to the past where none of them knew each other. Everyone, take care. M. Chapter 2664. Without the mystery man, it meant that Yun Jian and Ce would not come to Earth, nor would they be close to anyone they knew on Earth. Killing the mystery man before he became a mystery man meant that they had returned to the starting point before anything had begun. The mystery man had messed up time and space, allowing them to meet. If Yun Jian restored time and space to the starting point, everything would not have started. The year 2004. Walking in an era that was completely different from 2019, where there were no mobile phones and cars were everywhere, Yun Jian felt conflicted. Lifting her hand to look at the fiery red sun in the sky, it was as if she was looking at the day when she had just been reborn in Longmen City. The sky was as bright and sunny as it was today. Yun Jian looked at the fiery red sun through her slender hand. 3 seconds later, a pair of palms that were longer and more perfect than Yun Jian's held her hand. "Xiao Jian, no matter where you are in the future, I'll always be with you." He knew her hesitation. Whether it was as the king of sorcerer god of Yulong mainland or slaying god, the top secret agent in the international ranking, Yun Jian was the king of kings. However, as a king, she craved kinship and was satisfied with everything she had now. To let go of everything and return to her past life was no doubt a heavy blow to Yun Jian. Ce's words struck a chord in Yun Jian. Her hand unconsciously clasped his 5 fingers behind hers. Whether it was her as the sorcerer god or slaying god, he would always be by her side. She would never be alone. According to the intel, it's here. Yun Jian was standing in a corner of an open space, her gaze fixed ahead. Ce and Yuan Xing stood beside her. 3 minutes later, the mystery man who had yet to become a mystery man would pass by here. As long as the mystery man was killed, everything would be over. Yuan Xing nodded from the side. Time was ticking away, second by second. 3 minutes later, a silhouette suddenly appeared at a corner of the open space. That was. Yun Jian licked her lips and clenched the butterfly knife in her hand. However, just as she was about to attack in the next second, a powerful barrier suddenly lit up around her. That powerful barrier seemed to have been premeditated as it surrounded the area, including where Yun Jian and Ce were. This barrier. We've been tricked. Yuan Xing's deep eyes fiercely moved as he spoke with a somewhat gloomy expression. This barrier must have been set up a long time ago. Just by looking at its thickness and sturdiness. Yuan Xing spoke again. After he finished, His pupils constricted slightly. In the next second, Yuan Jing's eyes widened and he said something that made Yun Jian and Ce frown. Looks like he has already planned this out. It seemed that the mysterious man had already planned to have a decisive battle with Yun Jian and the others here. In the future world, the mysterious man and Yun Jian's group perished together in 2016. But now, it had been brought forward by 12 years. Yun Jian's eyes were terrifyingly deep at this moment. Within the barrier, it could be a smoky battlefield. However, outside the barrier, ordinary people could not see the world within the barrier. That was the power of the barrier. At this moment, a large group of people in black robes suddenly appeared around them. All of them were dressed in black robes, revealing only a pair of dark eyes. However, that was not the point. The point was that after the appearance of this group of people in black robes, everyone who had anything to do with Yun Jian suddenly appeared within the barrier out of thin air. Yes, everyone. Including Yun Jian's biological parents when she was slaying God, Zhou Ran's family. Chapter 2665. Not to mention Zhou Ran's family, Zhou Ran, Yun Mu, and Yun Ni. Gu Junjian, Qin Yiru, Xinjiang Town's Lin Mingyu, Yuaning Jun, Yun Jian's former father, Yun Gang, Zhang Jifan, Qin Yiru's mother's family, Zhang Meihua, Qin Junlan, and the rest. Everyone had suddenly appeared here. However, there were far more people who had suddenly appeared. Everyone from Xinjiang Town's basketball team, Lu Fian, Si Chu, Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Sini, Ling Chen, and even Mad Dragon, Di Lin, Leng Mei, and the rest. Everyone who Yun Jian had met had suddenly been transported here. Everyone. Even Bailey Yen and the Lord from Deity Continent, and the witch tribe from Yulong mainland. Those who were still alive and whom Yun Jian had met had all gathered here. There were at least a few thousand of them. Yun Jian's eyes darkened fiercely at this moment. She had planned to quietly kill the mysterious person who had yet to become a mysterious person and return everything to square one. However, the mysterious person had set up a barrier before Yun Jian made her move. He had even transported all the people who Yun Jian had met here from all over the world using the transportation formation. He had really come prepared. Sister, where is this place? Yun Jian held her head and shook it, looking at Yun Jian in bewilderment. Glancing around, she did not even know where she was now. Why were we suddenly sent here? No one knew what had happened. Yun Mu was Yun Jian's younger sister when she was slaying God in her previous life. At this moment, Yun Mu was scratching her short hair, looking confused. Yun Jian, what are you doing? Haven't you done enough to me? Lin Mengyu, whom she had first met in Xinjiang Town, had her arms crossed in front of her chest. When she saw Yun Jian, whom she had not seen for a long time, she was so scared that she kept retreating. When Yuaning Jun saw the increasingly beautiful Yun Jian, a trace of regret flashed through his eyes. However, he swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva. When he saw Ce, he took a step back and did not dare to step forward. He still remembered the pain he had suffered. The members of the martial arts club in Jiangqing City, Mo Bufan and the others, as well as Kai Huiling, who had always regarded Yun Jian as her mortal enemy. Everyone who had met Yun Jian before was present. Yun Jian's frown deepened. What on earth did the mysterious man want to do? Just as everyone's hearts trembled, a burst of laughter rang out from the top of the barrier. Ha ha ha! Ha ha! Welcome to my world. As soon as he finished speaking, a person dressed in a black robe with only a pair of pitch-black eyes that were filled with hatred suddenly appeared in front of everyone. The mysterious man. The mysterious man who had been defeated by Yun Jian and Ce last time, abandoned his body and tore open his soul to run away, once again stood in front of Yun Jian and Ce. The mysterious man who suddenly appeared glanced around and glanced at all the people who were involved in it. In the next second, he laughed again. You must be very surprised. Why are you here? This is all thanks to her. It's time to get ready to end this boring game. You will all become the souls of the dead under my sword. After the mysterious man appeared, his sharp and harsh voice pierced the ears of everyone present. When everyone heard this, their hearts trembled with fear. In spite of it, they could all tell that they were here because of Yun Jian. Just as everyone turned to look at Yun Jian's furrowed brows slowly relaxed. She looked at the mysterious man, her red arc moving slightly. The next second, she chuckled and suddenly spoke coldly, directly revealing the mysterious man's identity. I used to treat you as my senior, the best captain, the leader of the team, but you disappointed me too much. The mysterious man was none other than the leader of Team Monarch, who had gone through thick and thin with Yun Jian and the others to reach where they were today through countless trials and tribulations. He had stood resolutely in front of them and shielded them from the storm. Lu Shiyun. M. Chapter 2666. The leader of Team Monarch, Lu Shiyun. Since Yun Jian was reborn in Longmen City and was chosen by Gu Junjian to be a member of Team Monarch, Lu Shiyun had been fulfilling his duty as the leader. He was steady, aloof from worldly affairs, and did not compete with others for fame or benefits. He was an excellent leader. However, it was such a person who had been secretly targeting Yun Jian. From the time Yun Jian broke up the sorcerer goddess and the deity lord when she was still the sorcerer goddess, to the kidnapping of Xiao Yunju when Yun Jian became slaying god, to the manic pursuit of Yun Jian and Ce, to the end where he tricked Yun Jian into almost having a miscarriage when Yun Jian was pregnant. These two seemingly unrelated people were actually the same person. Yun Jian was equally stunned when she found out the truth about this unexpected turn of events. Yun Jian, what senior and leader? Why are we here all of a sudden? Has the world turned into a fantasy? You almost scared me just now. I've just showered at home. If it was a minute earlier, I would have come here naked. Chu Ning glanced around and walked over with a look of surprise. She even covered her clothes with her hands, looking as if she had no idea what was going on. The people around them were the same. Those who had boasted in front of Yun Jian, or those who had offended and been suppressed by Yun Jian, or those who had received help from Yun Jian, were baffled at first before they asked around in shock what was going on. Since they did not know what was going on, the hubbub of thousands of people around them was as noisy as a large market when their voices overlapped. Yun Jian did not respond to Chu Ning. Everyone in Team Monarch, including Chu Ning, except Lu Shiyun, looked at Yun Jian in confusion. Yun Jian, on the other hand, leaped lightly in front of thousands of people and landed on a pile of cement pipes that were as big as 3 schools in the sky. Behind her was a group of thousands of ordinary people who had come into contact with Yun Jian, who had been swept into the incident. In front of her was the mysterious man and his subordinates. Yun Jian stood high on the pile of cement pipes, her gaze cold and intimidating. Among the crowd, everyone who had been in contact with Yun Jian, be it good or bad, stopped talking at this moment. This magical teleportation had sent them here all of a sudden. They were surrounded by a barrier and could not walk out. Those who did not know what was going on thought that it was amusing. Yun Mu, what's going on? Zhou Qiong, Mu Zixi, Wan Yuyu, Jing Chang, and the rest could not help coming over to ask Yun Jian's younger sister, Yun Mu. I don't know. Yun Mu's eyes were fixed on Yun Jian's, who was standing on the cement pipes. Her instincts told her that Yun Jian, her sister whom she had lost contact with for more than a decade, must be hiding some shocking secret. And this secret was very likely to be completely revealed today. However, Yun Mu was not the only one who had this thought. After Yun Jian was reborn in Longmen City, she had been in contact with many people. Those who had been in contact with Yun Jian were all shocked and bewildered by what was happening before them. While everyone was pondering, Yun Jian, who was standing on the cement pipe, glanced at the mysterious person with a sharp gaze. She used the same words that slaying god and sorcerer goddess had always been arrogant and never changed as she spoke coldly and haughtily in front of everyone. You're right. Do you think that you can threaten me by dragging them into our battlefield? Today, I'll kill you here even if you use 10,000 times the potion or 10 million times the potion. I swear in the name of Yulong Mainland's daughter, the sorcerer goddess, the former god of war of Yulong Mainland, that the only one who will die here today will be you, Lu Shiyun. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2667. It didn't matter why Lu Shiyun changed from an ordinary person to a mysterious person who wanted to kill her. Yun Jian had said that she would never accept any betrayal. No matter who it was. Anyone who betrayed Yun Jian would be killed. Anyone who offended her would be killed as an example to others. Even if it was her closest kin, it would still be the same. She, Yun Jian, was not a kind person, let alone being compared to a good person. Bloodthirsty was the king. Killing, war and hegemony, this was the world that belonged to her. Because in such a world, she could find the value of her life. She was the king, and always had been. She would not allow anyone to stand in front of her and be arrogant. If there was, she would kill. She was the king, Yun Jian. No matter what she did or did, her name was Yun Jian. Lu Shiyun? Captain. What's going on? When Chu Ning and the others heard Yun Jian's words, they suddenly trembled. Even an idiot could tell that Yun Jian and the mysterious person who was shrouded in a black robe had a blood feud of either you die or I live. So, where did the captain go? Chu Xiongnan, with his crooked brain, could not figure it out for a while. Everyone was puzzled. Ha ha ha. At this time, the mysterious person standing in front of Yun Jian stopped pretending. He tore off the black robe that wrapped around his body and had not shown it to anyone for so many years, revealing a familiar yet unfamiliar face. The mysterious person was indeed Lu Shiyun, but compared to the current Lu Shiyun in his 20s, he was from the future and had a more mature look. His middle-aged face was not bad-looking, and it was a sharp contrast to the youthful Lu Shiyun. The mysterious person from the future, Lu Shiyun, looked more mature and older than the Lu Shiyun of the present world, but his face was also a little darker. It was the kind of dark and gloomy feeling that came from his glabella. One thing was certain, Lu Shiyun in 2004 had not become the mysterious person who would be unpardonably evil in the future. The bad was only him in the future. This made Yun Jian want to find out what Lu Shiyun had encountered in the future. Captain? No. Isn't that Captain? He looks older than Captain. The members of Team Monarch were horrified when they saw the mysterious person's face. Everyone present, including Yun Jian, Zhou Qiong, Mu Zixi, Zhang Meihua and the rest of Longmen City, Mo Bufan and the rest of the University of Rivertown students, was only curious about one thing. Why did Yun Jian call herself the witch goddess of Yulong mainland? However, before anyone could think too much about it, the mysterious man took a big step forward. He raised his hand, and a few large bottles of 10,000-fold potion appeared in his hand. Before anyone could react, he immediately swallowed it. Don't talk nonsense, come on. Let me see how strong you are to challenge me alone. The mysterious man walked towards Yun Jian with a gloomy face. At some point, Ce and Yun Jian were standing side by side on the cement pipe. Ce held Yun Jian's hand tightly and refused to let go. However, just as the mysterious man was walking towards them, a loud voice suddenly came from the crowd. Yun Jian isn't alone. I, Zhang Zhifan, have chosen to follow her. I'll be Yun Jian's subordinate for the rest of my life. Until death do us part. It's because I'm her sturdiest shield. The one who spoke was the CEO of New Cruise, Zhang Zhifan, who was managing Yun Jian's company. Zhang Zhifan stood behind Yun Jian after he finished speaking. Among the thousands of people present, someone saw Zhang Zhifan's face and recognized Zhang Zhifan at once. Zhang Zhifan. New Cruise's CEO, Zhang Zhifan, is Yun Jian's subordinate. Doesn't that mean Yun Jian is New Cruise's director? Someone exclaimed in the crowd. Those who were unaware of Yun Jian's identity, and those who were aware of Yun Jian's identity were stunned. New Cruise. They had already promoted the company to the entire world, becoming Z Nation's pioneer and an international brand that had a firm foothold in the international arena. That's right. The proudest thing that I, Su Zetian, have done in my life is to follow Yun Jian. Falcon Hall is glorious because of her. I'll forever follow that woman named Luo Sha. I'll never change. After Zhang Zhifan stepped forward, a majestic and determined voice rang out again. The crowd watched as another figure walked out from the crowd. This person had the aura of a mafia boss. However, before Yun Jian, he was willing to show weakness. Su Zetian, the manager of Z Nation's biggest mafia boss, Luo Sha. The crowd was once again startled. Some people even forgot about the battle in front of them. They used the most panicked tone in their lives to shout out loud, a voice that reverberated throughout the entire area and shook everyone present. New Cruise. Falcon Hall. Yun Jian, is New Cruise's director and Falcon Hall's legendary boss, Luo Sha. Chapter 2668. Unwavering even in death. Unwavering even in death. What a firm and determined voice it was. Zhang Zhifan and Su Zetian. One was an elite who dominated the global market in the legal world. The other was an eagle who dominated the world in the mafia world. Both of them were dragons among men who had almost monopolized country Z's economy. They followed Yun Jian with such determination and unyielding aura that they swore to follow Yun Jian to their deaths. In such a dangerous situation, there was no need for Yun Jian to order them as their superiors. They stepped forward and stood on the same side as Yun Jian. This was no longer a matter of absolute obedience between superiors and subordinates. Yun Jian's capability and capital had made these two elites who stood at the pinnacle of the pyramid in the eyes of outsiders to obey her orders to their deaths. It was an absolute obedience that came from the bottom of their hearts, from the depths of their souls. They did not need any instructions and would never back down when Yun Jian was in trouble. The courage to charge forward. Who was she, Yun Jian? How could she make these two elites who stood at the pinnacle of the pyramid, who had monopolized both the legal and illegal worlds in Country Z, submit to her? Slaying Luo, the chairman of New Cruz and the boss of the mafia's Falcon Hall, she. The old lady who held a grudge against Zhou Ran for not being able to protect her son because Zhou Ran had given birth to Yun Jian, who had yet to be reborn, as well as her younger daughter, Yun Shang, and had accidentally lost her son, Yun Zhu, whom she had painstakingly given birth to. She clutched her chest, almost suffocating from the shock. Zhou Ran, Yun Ni, Yun Mu, Zhou Ran, and everyone else who was present. Even Zhang Meihua and the others from Longmen City were glaring at Yun Jian with bulging eyes, their faces turning purple from fright. Everyone, including those who had failed to lay a hand on Yun Jian and were retaliated against by Yun Jian instead, had their eyes wide open. All of them widened their eyes in shock. While they were terrified of Yun Jian's identity, they were reminded of the terrifying things they had said or done to her in the past. If she were to really attack them, she would only need to move a finger. Besides, Yun Jian was only 19 years old. What kind of environment did such a legendary woman who could be regarded as a miracle of the world grow up in? Before they could recover from their shock, the old man chuckled. The mysterious man cackled as if he already knew Yun Jian's identity. He took another step forward and could not help sneering at Zhang Zhifan and Su Zetian's foolish behavior. If Zhang Zhifan's New Cruz and Su Zetian's Falcon Hall, then Yun Jian's. Then, you're a man. At this moment, an enchanting woman suddenly walked out from the crowd. This enchanting woman twisted her body as she walked out from the crowd and arrived in front of the crowd. The person who had arrived was none other than the demoness. Ever since you saved me, Temptress, and handed Rongyao Company over to me to manage, I've been with you for so many years. I'm considered your senior. You should add me to the list of people who stand behind you. Temptress crossed her arms and said those words in a calm voice that shocked everyone. The president of Rongyao Company. Temptress. That meant Rongyao Company. Rongyao Company, one of the top 10 international corporations in the world, the richest Rongyao Company in the world, is Yun Jian's too. When someone heard this, he used a voice that was close to a roar to shout out this sentence. Not only that. Far more than that. Other than New Cruz and Falcon Hall. And Rongyao Company. Ordinary people could not even touch a corner of a company founded by Yun Jian in their lifetime. But Yun Jian had founded so many top international companies one after another. Could it be that she wasn't human?